Love you, we appreciate you, and we cannot wait to kick off our second day of the group stage, excuse me. Now, of course, my name is Rainday, and I'm joined by two of the best in the business, my dear friends, Vicky and Lauren. What a great time to be here, and Vicky, again, day 2 of our group stage. We still get to see all these teams go head-to-head. How is it feeling? You can already hear the crowd getting ready.
I mean, if that isn't a statement enough, it's pumping me up. I'm so excited. I mean, after everything we already witnessed, day number 1, the action continues here in day number 2. We saw some groups play twice, and now we're going to see that repeat here for the groups that didn't get to compete twice. They only played once, so that's why it's going to be so exciting to see how that's going to even out the playground when it comes to the group stages.
Similar dynamic, different energy, though, as you're right, Lauren. For some teams, they've already gotten 2 out of the way, but now some will have that chance to be on main stage more. How's the environment feeling stepping into the arena this morning?
I'm surprised that there's already as much energy going. It's very early in the morning, and the fans are ready to go, which just makes me that much more excited. We saw so many phenomenal performances yesterday, some from teams that we hadn't necessarily anticipated for a day 1 performance, which means that today's going to be tougher for some of the teams that ended up towards the bottom, towards the middle. But like you said, a couple still need to get that second series in general, and that's going to completely change up the standings.
Yeah, well, it's easy to do it once, but can you do it twice? Can you repeat it? Can you close out? That's obviously the question that these teams are asking themselves and asked hopefully last night as they went over the tape. But if you didn't catch it and have a chance to see it, we've got a little bit of a recap for you for how day 1 went, because it was very entertaining and also surprising in some ways. A versus B started off with Dreamfire, Vicky, having an amazing performance.
In this group, Dreamfire found themselves taking 2 dubs, a 3rd place finish, but not only did they take those 2 dubs, they finished not only with the win, but with double-digit KP. That allowed them to skyrocket in the overall standings for the group stage A and B. They finished with 78 points, but we got to see some more action in group C and D.
Yeah, C and D, the only time that DZ has played so far, and they didn't even need a win to be at the top of their leaderboard. 2 second-place finishes with 14 and 12 kills respectively put them right at the top. So if that's why anybody wondering where DZ is in the overall leaderboard, they've only played 1 time, so they still have lots of opportunity to get those points on the board. They were followed very closely, though. 1 point behind them was NRG, a team that gave us a very standout performance on day 1 as well. You'll see that reflected here in those series results, so excited to see what both of those squads can do later on.
A lot of APAC representation. Dreamfire, Blackhand, Ironblood Gaming, all great performers. A&D would close out the day, though. We'd finally see these teams play for the 2nd time, and it would ultimately end up being a match of juggernauts that Optic Gaming would come out on top of. We've talked about Skittlecakes and his ability to predict zones, but what we didn't know was how Dropped was going to fit in to Nock and Skittle's already established identity. Obviously, Duplex earlier in the year being a part of this team, and now having to adjust, but they have adjusted quite well. 62 points, a 1st place, but a notable finish with Moist Esports right behind. And I think ultimately, when you consider that this is just the beginning, there's so many different teams, Vicky, that are bouncing back and forth in terms of the leaders, the pack that we think is trailblazing, and ultimately maybe teams that we're starting to say, this could be a contender to hoist the trophy at the end of the day. Yeah,
there's so many teams that I'm excited to watch, honestly, now going into this. How is Alliance going to do? We know we're seeing some changes going into that roster. Say hello to Effect, even Wives making an appearance. Listen, I'm just really excited to see how that plays out. But also teams like XSET. Yeah. Like you mentioned, some teams haven't been able to play 2 in those lobbies, but this is where we get to see which of our teams are going to fare in the winner's bracket or which ones are going to start in the loser's bracket tomorrow.
Absolutely. That's left us here with the standings as it goes for day number 2 to jump in, because yes, we did see amazing performances over A, and TSM, NRG, Optic, they have found their way into a top 3 position, but remember, they have played 2 sets already. Ironblood Gaming, Blackhand right behind. Dreamfire, something I want to notice, and we'll talk about them a lot today, they've only played 1 set, so they played twice today, and they are still in the top 10, and when you talk about what does this mean, it really just means you are now getting yourself a chance to be in the winner's bracket, and then it all starts again.
Yeah, and which is crazy when you consider, like you said, 1 performance. We've seen so many of these teams not match that in 2, so this is what's called impressive. Now also, though, we need to talk about the other regional representation. We saw some pop-off moments from Realize, from Start a Fight, from a team singularity from Tom Young-Kung.
Yeah.
I mean, we could not stop talking about some of the APAC pop-up moments from yesterday as well.
Absolutely, and when you take a look at these 20 teams, if it finished now, they'd be in our winner's bracket when we get to the bracket stage tomorrow. But the teams below that, in 30th to 40th, obviously right now have a little bit of work to do. For some, it's just a matter of having to play twice today, so you'll see that balance out. For some, maybe like Alliance, or if we take a look at our bottom 40, it just maybe is that they've got to figure out how they're going to approach this tournament to be more effective. We know Dreamfire with 1 can get all the way up to 7. What do these teams have that's stopping them from being there? Maybe Effect joining this squad for our EMEA crew. We'll see if they can have the title of the Hope of Europe, or EMEA, still after this. But as we settle in, it's obviously now talking about what is going on today. We've seen
Hi bro, solo bro, hi bro.
now have a chance to get excited and connected to one another. And in terms of the way that I think this tournament has gone, these matchups often really determine how a team performs. There's so many little things in terms of drop spots and early contests that we've seen, even with TSM and Kick yesterday, really change the narrative of how a game goes.
Man, when you really want to just go in for that 50-50 and go over and over again, and you hope for a different result. I mean, it happened once, but that didn't do anything for them, unfortunately. Are we going to see them do something different, or are they going to keep contesting tier 1 teams? It's going to be very difficult, but then you get to walk away with lackluster points.
Yeah, and when you look at TSM as well specifically, how did they manage that? Vanglorioso was saying, if I can't beat them in terms of the contest in the game, I'll try to do it by getting the biceps bigger in the gym. It didn't really help. TSM still on top. NRG, though, as well. You had mentioned it a little bit, Glitter. Surprising from them to be this effective in your eyes?
On day 1, I think definitely it was. We've seen them have a little bit of a slower performance in the last season in general. And we know just how strong that team is, and they came out yesterday trying to prove that. And you'll see just how dead even they are with TSM, with the exception of just the matches won. I mean, you've got 52 to 56 kills with NRG actually in the lead there. You've got 25k to 26k damage. That's a negligible amount when it comes to a difference. I mean, the consistency that we saw out of both of these squads shows why, Rain, you've done so many Howlin' Tweak pieces.
That's right. Do we have another one this land? Will it be a little different? I'm, not going to say anything, but I do know that maybe this man right here, if he continues playing like this, could be a contender for another version of one of those docks in another moment. We have an opportunity to gather the players. Look at that, 21 kills so far, 7,000. He is the kill leader on the day. His most picked legend, Catalyst. We've seen this happen with some of the stars in terms of our controller fraggers, aka Verholz on the other side, also playing Catalyst, which is not necessarily what you would have assumed in terms of, I think, going into Apex or maybe playing your games. You might have somebody on a more aggressive character getting the most kills, but this is really the, I guess, responsibility that these two young stars have taken on for their teams, and it is certainly putting them in pole position. However, looking to today, let's switch gears and focus on B and C, because these are the teams that will be competing first off in this bracket stage, group stage again. I'm just excited. I want to get to the brackets, guys. I want to get to eliminations here. We're going to have those B and C groups come up really shortly, but again, just a little bit of a teaser talking about it, Vicky. What are you most excited about with what today is going to bring?
I want to see consistency for our teams that didn't get to play more than one game yesterday, because we get to see now certain teams in action where is it that consistency going to transcend from yesterday's performance into today? We highlight Dreamfire for a reason, because to have that one standout performance
go,
allowing you to allocate 78 points is actually insane.
First match யாருக்குன்னு தெரியலையே
like we mentioned to see the
NRG வருமான்னு தெரியல first
here
match
they are finally, Lauren.
BNC.
We're going to talk more in depth in just a moment of what these groups mean. What is the tone of this BNC group for you?
I mean, we've got lots of heavy hitters in here. Right in Group C alone, you've got DZ, you've got Alliance, like you said, Vicky. Now Effect being able to jump on board with the squad
NRG இல்ல bro.
after a standout performance. But for me, I'm
maybe
looking at
அடுத்த
Dojo,
group stage ல
They
இருப்பாங்க.
could not catch a break yesterday with some of those contests. They'd win them and then get thirded. I want to see what they can do without having to worry about that now.
Well, there's certainly a lot of stories we can kind of jump into. For me, LGG is
bro.
another team that can win at any point in time. They could be a
இவங்களது
surprise
முடிஞ்சோனே
today.
NRG
Complexity
வரும்னு
as well.
நினைக்கிறேன்
Kimchi Lee's been hitting the memes all on Twitter, and throughout the venue. I love the way he's performing. South America, will they have a chance? We'll find out, because we've got to push now onto our teams that we're going to be focusing on. This is who we've selected, and I'm going to lead it in with you, Vicky, to talk about your selection here of XSET.
Yeah, first off, I just love how all the IGLs are doing a special pose, striking a special pose while they get to take a picture with the rest of their team. But my team to watch is XSET. I talked to them yesterday. I talked to the Nocturnal specifically. First off, they want to be under the radar. They don't want us to talk about them. They want to slide through, and I said, unfortunately, you guys are too consistent and you guys are too good for us to just overlook you.
Yeah.
So while we are on this topic, this is the team that has gotten first into the Split 2 Pro League to then get fourth in the Split 2 playoffs.
Top 10
the same thing
overall top
happened.
10.
It was replicated in the Split 1 Pro League. They didn't get first, but they got second. And then they got fourth again in the Split 1
Overall
playoff.
top 10
What is it that is the difference between their performance in the Pro League versus these playoff matches? Yes, you're in LAN. Yes, you're in front of a crowd. But throw those nerves out the table. Hotsick, you know what? They call him Grandpa Hotsick for a reason. He's a veteran. He's molded by all the pressure.
Top 10
and he knows what he needs to
overall
do to keep this team together so that way they can finally obtain that dub that they've
Oh,
gotten so close to getting.
It's one of the
okay.
things I almost
Okay, bro,
want to
புரிஞ்சிச்சு.
talk about a little later, but is there a personality thing that needs to step up for XSET? I know that Sykes is ready to laugh at anything Fun says after yesterday, but what does Nocturnal have to say about this? Who has to be the golden child, so to speak, to kind of take on the mantle and say, we are a team, but yes, I'm the standout leader? I think every championship squad
Actually, brackets
typically has that
நாளைக்கு
standout player that kind of takes a lot of the
Top 10,
attention.
top 10
Which
team.
person from XSET will that be? Such a good team, but maybe that's what they're missing in terms of hoisting the trophy. But
எனக்கு தெரிஞ்சு இன்னைக்கு ரெண்டு குரூப்ல டாப் 10 பாப்பாங்க நினைக்கிறேன். Top 20 தான் winner bracket போகும்.
I have to talk again about Dreamfire. I mean, their performance yesterday cannot be ignored. They came out on top with 70 points, which are
இன்னைக்கு group stage மட்டும் தான். இன்னைக்கு பாயிண்ட் பார்த்து டாப் 20 தான் போவோம்னு நினைக்கிறேன். winner bracketக்கு. நாளைக்கு elimination round ரெண்டு நடக்கும். 1 and 2.
Making those early rotations, getting into solid positions, knowing where the zone was going to end, and
பாரு
holding it
குட்டி
until the
பையன்.
late game. They were patient, they were decisive, and then you take into
பயங்கரமா ஆடுறான்
consideration, you've
அவன்.
got Roy running the whole show, and the stats coming out of 3MZ, 17 kills to match the 17, knocks over 5.6k damage. I mean, come on.
They're the only team that played once yesterday that is in the top 10 in the group standings currently right now, and that is a statement on its own.
I think ultimately, too, APAC has had such
ஆமா.
great representation, but let's just remove APAC. Let's just talk Dreamfire. They have half the stands currently right now filled with their supporters. That's got to mean something.
And we've seen that for 2 events now. They have a fan base that is coming with the signs, ready to go to cheer them on. And honestly, we've seen how much fun Dreamfire has. We're seeing it now yet again. They win, we get dances, we get poses. I mean, not only are they doing well, but they're having a good time.
கீபோர்ட் எப்படி வச்சிருக்கான் பாரு. ரொம்ப கிராஸா வச்சிருக்கான்.
If those dreams will stay in their heart and their fire in their gut. I don't know. We didn't plan that, but that was about as good as it could get in terms of synergy. That sign, that phrase, that is what Dreamfire are hoping to bring to today. Will it unfold the way the fans in the front row are hoping? We'll find out very, very shortly. For me, though, I maybe have a twist
bro.
on what I want to talk about. We've got some heavy hitters in here. Dark Soul, of course, playing. I think they might be, alongside TSM, the 2 teams I expect at the end of this LAN, unless someone proves differently, to be the ones holding the trophy. But a team that I think has a chance to get a little bit better than their top 5 finish in Split 2 is FaZe. Honestly, I think FaZe Clan has had such an incredible journey to even getting to this position. Sniped-Down returning from Halo, taking that hiatus and coming back in to join Phony and Frex, obviously, with this kind of dynamic of a team that is veteran, that is not necessarily journeyman, but also found their ways as a unit together better than maybe they would have expected had they picked 2 other players randomly and said, these are the 2 that I would play well with. It's just worked out for them. And for me, one of the biggest things I've asked, and I've said to Phony as we rode the elevator down before this entire event started, he was about to get a workout in a jacuzzi. I appreciate that prep, but he also commented on the fact that I said, you need to be the one that steps up. If there is someone who in this team leads them to victory, becomes the personality, and helps to bridge that gap between your other 2 players, I think Phony is it, and I think he's taken on that challenge this tournament. tournament.
I think it's a Cinderella story too, because Phony has always wanted to be part of FaZe, you know, and then Snipe Down making the realization and the adaptation. You know what? I've been gone for a little bit from the scene. I'm gonna step down.
Roy, Roy equal to Roy.
Gave that mantle to Phony, and then him taking the reins. Not only being part of the team that he really loves, but also as the IGL to help guide this team to victory is the story that you really love to see.
பயங்கரமா எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ணிருக்கீங்க bro chatல.
Those three guys have a chance to do it today. We will find out very shortly as BNC is nearly underway, which means that we've got to dive into our talent predictions. What do we think is going to actually happen right now? Well, you know, I'm going against who I'm watching. I think Dreamfire with the support is actually going to be able to get it done. But again, a lot of choices, Vicky. You're going Dark Zero. I appreciate that.
வெயிட்டான டீம் சப்போர்ட் பண்றாங்களே. Alliance Dreamfire Dark Zero.
And I have seen that from Dreamfire before. But last line there was a bit of struggle, and now I want to be able to see things change.
பயங்கரமா ப்ளே பண்றாங்க bro Dreamfire.
Dark Zero's been one of the teams alongside TSM that has been the
பயங்கர காம்படிஷன் bro
when it comes to champs. So that's why I had to go with Dark Zero for this group, because now we get to see them play again.
I mean, Lauren, it is kind of hard to pick anybody but Dreamfire after only seeing them once and seeing 78 points on the board.
Dark Zero நைஸா பந்துவானுங்க உள்ள.
CSM was the second place team, 20 points above them. I mean, obviously we agree here. Rain Dia also agrees with us, and I trust Dia with my life when it comes to some of this stuff. So I feel good about this choice now.
Yeah, and let's take a look at what the other talent have said.
ஆமா ஒரு எக்ஸைட் நல்ல டீம் தான்.
Representing EMEA, it's been fun to hang with Graceful backstage as well. Peeps going 100 Thieves. That seems like a very Peeps pick.
நீங்க சப்போர்ட் எக்ஸைட் தான். எனக்கு எக்ஸைட் பிடிக்கும் bro. பட் அவனுங்க ஆடுறதே பவர் கம்மி பண்றாங்க.
prediction that we can do because we're about to get underway.
என்ன ஆச்சு தெரியல. கம்பேக்கே கொடுக்க மாட்டேங்கிறான்.
If you're watching today though, what does that mean? It means that you have a chance not just to see some great Apex, but also to earn some Twitch drops. That's right. You just by watching will have a chance to grab the Crimson Hawk Valkyrie skin today. So watch 60 minutes, you'll have a chance to actually go play Apex and look a little cooler, look a little different. People will ask you, where's that from?
பாத்தீங்களா fraud பசங்களா?
The ALGS, and it just gets better. Friday,
Champion
Saturday,
sticker,
Sunday, specific
holo spray gun chama.
Stickers, hollow sprays,
rendu skin
that you can only get here this weekend. So make sure to watch in and enjoy. All right, I'm excited. I'm a little bummed that I got to watch backstage, but I will have my Twitch drops rolling. So even though I can't be, actively in Twitch, I will have the drops happening as well. So hopefully you guys follow suit. It's been great to open today, and you know what? I'm ready for some action. Let's send it over to our casters to kick off day 2 of our group stage here. I believe we've got Dia and Tiff ready for the action.
Thank you so much, Rain Day, Vicky, and Glitter. That is right. Spider, Tiff, and Dia, we will be bringing you all the action for the second day of Group Series, and I couldn't be more excited. But Rain Day did mention here, he was talking about maybe getting his Twitch drops, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be back there 1v1 challenging Vicky. Didn't we see a little bit of that action yesterday?
Yeah, we did. And she'll probably show him some clips in between, just to,
Yeah, that's been kind of interesting. Vicky, if you guys ever see her in the arena and she shows you her clips, definitely enjoy those. But let's go ahead and look at what we've got in store for you guys today with that map schedule. We will be kicking things off on World's Edge for the first 3 maps and then switching over to Storm Point later. And when we start off on World's Edge, I only got to cast over some Storm Point yesterday.
World's Edge, Storm Point, World's Edge, Storm Point.
I'm really happy that we are getting to start all of our matches on World's Edge as well. It's a typically more calculated map where teams tend to share a lot smaller spaces, and it'll give the more veteran squads the opportunity to really flex their muscles. And the team that I have to be looking at is Alliance as we jump in. Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The change-up going into today is going to mean so much, as even yesterday, while their performance was fun, it wasn't the Alliance that we saw in Split 2 playoffs.
Yeah, and I love that you bring that up, because when you think of Alliance and Split 2 playoffs, the one difference there was they had effect at the early stages of group season. Throughout the entirety of Split 2 playoffs, effect accumulated 75 eliminations. He was at the top of the board, and 23 of those came from just his first appearance in group stages. But now that they already have one under their belt, Effect's kind of got his little work to cut out for him there.
Yeah, this is not going to be an easy lobby by any means. We've got our drop spots up, and that means that some of you are going to be picking up the contests that are happening around the map. Riddle and FaZe thinking about going over by Climatizer, and then up in the top left, Xset and Element 6 at Trials. This is a really storied matchup that we also saw play out during the Split 2 playoffs, and it tends to be quite a difficult contest because both of these teams are not going to 50-50. They're not going to drop on each other's faces, but they will take every opportunity along the way to take each other down.
Yes, and that's really smart, right? You have trials there. You've got Skyhook, West, and they'll probably do some of the building looks there and run into each other. It's going to be really tough for the rotations, but as we keep moving over, there's that Riddle Order versus FaZe contest. And typically, if you're contesting at Climatizer and you have complexity over at Survey Camp, you know in your mind that there is about to be a contest, and that could be potentially an easy third party to look to clean that up. And with complexity coming into their second round of group stages, they're sitting in 40th place and need every point that they can get to situate themselves in that winners bracket.
Now, having spoken to Riddle, who's another team who needs every point that they can get, they started off yesterday with a 20th place finish. They were also contested, and it was really tough for them. The biggest thing for APAC North was going to be this battle for POIs coming into this championship. Now that we're back on World's Edge, now that Riddle had the opportunity to again fight for POI, will they return constantly to Climatizer? Will they instead pivot to Overlook? We're about to find out as we've got Legend Select live in the arena, and we're starting to figure out how we're approaching this very first game of the day.
Yeah, it's been really fun to see all the Legend Selects done live. You can see Timmy there on the Bangalore Enemy, on Cat, Designful Horizon. I did see a Loba in the midst, and I know a lot of teams that were electing to play Loba. It looks like it's going to be Pulverex, Shun Mi. When you're rotating out of a POI such as Tree, you want that quick rotation, and you have to kind of loot on your way.
And that's going to be really helpful whenever you've got Loba. Thinking of on your way, I saw some Valkyries picked up here as well, which is really interesting. Teams that are pivoting back to Valkyrie, even with evac towers in the game, find that early rotation so much more necessary. And let's not forget, sort of get out of jail free card that she can provide you at any point in the game. We are jumping into our first of the day, match number 1 of C and B, as we get ready to drop in. Everybody going to be pretty calm during the early stages, and in fact, taking a look at the drops even as they lie now, it does look like Riddle has forfeited the contest early on and dropped over at Overlook instead of contesting FaZe at Climatizer.
Look, it's smart, right? Especially knowing where you started off early. You don't want to forfeit any more of those points, specifically when we're gearing up for that bracket stage that will be kicking off tomorrow. It is pretty imperative that you can find yourself in the winners bracket to situate yourself going into finals.
As a big buff for Riddle as well, they've dropped, as we said, near Overlook, where they have a ring console to make use of. Since they're running Catalyst, they'll be able to grab that and then start rotating in. Geyser's also got one, and they've got Ascent landing over there. One of the other teams that could take a step up today. They did finish 9th in yesterday's lobby, which is not bad for them, but they are coming off the back of a land performance that they surely want to write the course of.
Exactly, and this is where it all starts. They have that ring console. You're right, Riddle Order already just popped theirs, and you can see immediately where that zone will pull for them. It's nowhere near Overlook. We're going down towards the tree, so the Dojo landing at Lava Siphon will have a really preferred rotation. Dark Zero at Harvester, and then Alliance as well with the survey beacon information should be just fine.
And notably, Dark Zero will be rotating likely over through Siphon if they want a bit of extra information. You do have the opportunity to go down to Tree, but it's very out of the way, and Dark Zero do have, I will say, the opportunity to go a little bit slower, to farm up teams that are rotating, and they know exactly where the ring is going since they landed with both beacons right next door.
Oh, that's very nice. You can see Element 6 knowing they were able to get trials. Quite nice, but Enter Force 36, this is what you want. Sitting on triple blue, knowing that zone is coming to you, but you have to be prepared to fend off any of the early rotations that will be coming through. LG Chivas lands in Launch Light. You know that this is likely a choke point that they will filter through.
I'm really scared to fight against LG. I gotta be honest, this is the team that is known for fighting in North America. We've seen them slay incredibly quickly. And their rotation, as you said, extraordinarily fast. All with triple blues as well. Means that they have a bit of extra HP than those in Tree might otherwise have Tree, not as powerful of a POI typically.
Yes, and with Jaguares on the Catalyst, they should be able to lock down that side of the building and maybe coexist with E36. Now, the issue with that is maybe E36 is like, hey, maybe we take this early engagement and clear this building, but honestly, at that point with Dark Zero so close and operating on the low ground buildings, I wouldn't even want to chance that. But start thinking about the teams that are going to have the longest rotations. FaZe, Complexity, Xset. FaZe coming from Climatizer, since Riddle did leave them, would leave Overlook open to go ahead and rotate through there, grab that ring console information for themselves.
It'd be really nice to have a little bit of extra data. Plenty of time to pick that up as well. Overlook and Geyser both having ring consoles, even if you want to go over down towards Big Mod, as Ascend are doing. Northeption, meanwhile, they're coming down towards the south from a bit of a different angle, gonna move through Landslide and see if they can get a bit of additional information. And if they want, Like can actually find the People Beacon and see where everybody else is going, where the rest of the lobby thinks the ring is going to end, which can provide you just as much help, if not more, than a ring console.
Ooh, but we've already got LCDF, Kitharon going down, but they're hitting the quick res, and they do have the loot from Big Mod. You know, that was originally a contest between Gombre and Tosan, but it looks like they may have split that POI amicably, or maybe Geo dropped to actual stacks, which provides a good chunk of loot. And for all the loot redistributions that we've had, our teams are doing so well at finding decent loot and shields, and then crafting them up.
100 Thieves maybe hoping they can find a crafter pretty soon. Double Whites is not where you want to start, and certainly not where you want to finish this lobby, but they're bunkering up for now, which is an interesting choice. There's not a whole lot of defensive capability outside of the legend choices on 100 Thieves, and it'll make an actual push coming into Lava Siphon that much more difficult to defend against. Dreamfire's position also really difficult to manage.
This is such a tough one to hold. Specifically, everyone is going to be looking at them, and Pulverex, with them being on their rotation 30-30 in hand, able to just poke and prod at Dreamfire, who showed off so exponentially yesterday. Our desk, their fans here, we want to see them do well, and starting it off like this, they were able to retain the res onto Roy, though.
It's really cool to see how different teams sort around how they want to deal with loot. Loba and Watson, two big picks that we've seen to make sure that you have enough shields, both providing you the extra economy of Apex Legends. We even saw Newcastle picked up yesterday to try and answer a bit of that question for teams. Find a way to gather more bats that make such a difference at any stage in the game.
Oh, this is interesting. Okay, Complexity, they started in Survey Camp. They rotated over to the Survey Beacon on the outskirts, hit that, grabbed an evac tower, and are now in Landslide getting themselves a Survey Beacon for all of the information.
And that means they'll actually see other teams that could be rotating in on them. And there's only really one up to the north of Complexity. Xset have just left Skyhook proper and are starting to make their way down. A very slow rotation for them. The same cannot be said of LCDF, who have just made their way past Harvester. In this ravine, you do have a decent bit of safety, but it isn't a place that I'd want to stay in the long term, especially with a ring pulling as far south as it is.
Good smoke out there from Sikop and Kizaron, trying to get inside, at least just hang out here for the moment. Good use of the Jenny, immediately fencing up the area, but this is tough, right? They're electing to play Watson as opposed to Catalyst, and Catalyst yesterday had an 80% pick rate, so very interesting.
Yeah, Watson helps in some situations, especially against Fuse, right?
100%.
Super nice to have, but as you say, is more of an economy pick than a strong pick for playmaking. Catalyst is just so ridiculously flexible, and it's why we see her so often appear in team compositions. Well, we've got the rest of the lobby setting up for their own way to play. Northeption actually have a fantastic position here to continue to lay down abuse to those rotating through Harvester, and that's going to be a really common rotation for anyone coming from the north.
See, 310 in the building, and LCDF is trying to apply pressure, keep them from poking and prodding, but to close that distance would give LCDF, but we're keeping on the method here. But okay, so here's the deal. LCDF, they only have 5 shield cells. You're talking about economy with Watson. Having that Jenny out, you get, I believe it's around 175 shield recharge ability just from that Jenny, which is perfectly nice.
Could even get an Evo, keep landing shots like that. A longbow is going to be really nice, and a gold longbow, no less. I like the pickup from Cyclops. We'll see how it works out. This is a pretty unusual scope as well. It's very difficult to find gold sniper scopes, but when you're in a lobby with a lot of Bangalores, that could result in a few extra kill points going your way. I would like to see if we are going to abuse the particular weapon that you've been able to pick up, an opportunity to grab a little bit more high ground that is available in places like Shrink.
Complexity, they've made their way in, and Cody on the rotation goes down to 1 HP, finally able to find a chance to heal, but utilizing the Beast of the Hunt to go ahead and get that speed, get to cover Monsoon and them. They would like to play this RV, but it's going to be a little challenging. The issue we saw on World's Edge yesterday was the amount of fuses in the lobby, able to provide all the knuckle clusters, which was making playing RVs so difficult.
And Complexity are playing it on an even harder mode because they don't even have Catalyst to seal the doors. They don't have the traditional, the old pick of Caustic, even no defense to put up in here. So this is a temporary stopping point, but it won't be what wins them the game. Alliance, meanwhile, are trying to win a fight on their own terms outside, up against, I believe, Element 6.
It is Element 6, and we know Tyler's a crazy fragger, but this is effect for showing it. Yuki, anytime you get a PK in his hands, he can go off, able to grab a knock onto Tyler, but does get traded out. So we ask ourselves, is Effect going to be able to clutch up this moment? No, the third party from North Eption coming in. They want a piece of this action, and with K-Swinny and Slayers, the only 2 members up from Element 6, this should be really enticing.
Jumping onto a weakened E6, like does waste a clip into the knockdown shield. Coming over the top right now. It's really difficult to contest a Bloodhound push through all the chaos. E6 lose Tyler, and now still got to play defense on the low ground. North Eption are wasting a lot of time finishing off with just a duo. I almost wonder if they want to just relocate past it.
I love what they're doing, right? Clearing out E6 is going to allow them to rotate through and have their back on the furthest side of the ring, but Black Hole will be wasted. They're able to destroy it immensely quick. And a 3v2, Link does take the issue to them, but loses out on their shields. Now Slayers is one to clutch up, but goes down to 1 HP. The number advantage just not in their favor. Now K-Swinny, the IGL, immensely talented, is going to need to clutch up here or disengage.
Swinny has the opportunity to survive. In fact, the scan from like doesn't even reveal him. So Swinny has gone out and left the rest of the team. There's no point in trying to salvage this fight anymore, as E6 had lost it basically from the get-go. North Eption took a while to clean up, but now we've finished and we'll see what E6 can do. Exit, on the other hand, they've got a different story to tell as they defend Thermal Station from rotation out of the north side.
You can see North Eption rotating out, but Exit able to regain. They does have the Bangalore ultimate available to utilize should that be necessary, but I don't think you have to expend it just yet. Doubling back down into Harvester, the last team we witnessed in this area was LCDF. Likelihood of them to still be here.
We're gonna hit a quick pause, make sure that our players are all sorted. It was nice to see Exet taking a bit of harass, like you said, towards Harvester. FaZe are actually sharing space in Harvester with LCDF, another team we saw trading. A really nice thing about the position that FaZe holds is that they've got priority over the Crafter at Harvester, which is why you're rotating through there in the first place, especially as that team that has come from so far away, has looted up so much. At this point, you are using the Crafter as a bat machine, getting yourself ready for the very difficult rotation that will take you further south into a zone that is continuing to pull towards Tree and a bit of Lava Siphon.
Yeah, it's really tough. So you mentioned their rotation, right? We thought they would potentially go to Overlook, maybe hit that ring console, but they actually dipped down into Epicenter, which also had a ring console. So such a nice pattern for them to just drop straight down, go through, maybe potentially get another information, because Harvester has a ring console as well. So they're just kitted out on utilities, health, and information. But think of what lies about them, because even if you have that information, trying to get through LCDF, try to get through Area 310, and then you have to break through Dreamfire, which that will not be easy by any means.
Especially because Dreamfire have put themselves in the large and in charge position in the lobby. That's why you play the bridge, and it's why it's so difficult to play the bridge in any ALGS position, because other teams really want that same ability to influence the lobby, and especially the teams that are continuing to move in, especially not on their own schedule. As the next ring closes, there are going to be a lot of squads that are over in the Harvester area, even those that are still sat in Lava Siphon that are forced out out in ways that they wouldn't otherwise have expected or have been able to plan for.
Yes, now you got Dreamfire on your screen right there. I had a chance to sit down and talk with 3MZ yesterday. He was nominated for an EA Positive Player Award, and when I was asking him what that felt like, he told me he was over the moon to be mentioned in that, and just with so many talented individuals he was talking about, Verholst and Hackett, so being able to be among those legends in his eyes, he was just ecstatic. So all the fans out there representing Dreamfire, the coolest of signs and everything about it, I know I've got the dreams in my heart as well and would love to see them do exponentially well. But so let's start to think about it, right? As we pull further to that zone you were mentioning, outside of Lava Siphon, who lands Lava Siphon, Dia?
Yeah, this one is Dojo, and fortunately for them, they've been able to just chill in Lava Siphon. They landed there, and they have lived there the entire game. It's a fantastic place to play the game from, especially when the zone does start to pull tree, because often you will have zones that pull a little further north as they start to move, and everybody piles into tree. They go, oh, never mind. We're actually just going to play the high ground to the south of Lava Siphon, and that seems to be what Dojo are set up for, though we haven't jumped on board with them just yet.
Exactly, and I think that's going to be really smart for them. They do have the catalyst. There is an RV out there that is able to play, and you start to think about the dynamics of that team, and I was kind of perusing social media to see how all that was working, and you know, Design said it's all business today. He's ready to lock it in, so let's hope they can do it. We know they have the fragging power, but the game is back, and let's get on board with Xset, who was currently looking at Harvester, but you know, as soon as Fun put up the fingers and said, shh, they turned around.
You know, it's funny, their rotation's been kind of stymied just because of a small skirmish that they took. It was start a fight just ahead of them that are now rotating in and retaining high ground outside of tree. It's a good spot for them to be in.
That is unique. Actually, we were talking about Dojo just chilling at Lava Siphon, but look how much space that they've extended out to hold. I know that Designful will typically kind of separate out to maybe look for some action there, but you have one member completely into that next ring, but the other two have circled back around, so it looks like they're reuniting, expecting a push, and Naki's taking the action as Sykes completely finds out on K-Swinney. So K-Swinney, Element 6, will be eliminated despite his best effort to get some survivability.
It's been a while coming. A good attempt from Swinney, but it's really difficult to survive, not just when you're a solo, but when you don't really have the ability to craft your banners back up, get your teammates into the game. So a conclusion that was a long time coming. We've seen Element 6 on the way out for a little while. Xset collecting that kill point will be nice for them, but the position they've put themselves in right now, over by Thermal as the ring starts to close, means that they're going to be part of a multi-team fight towards the southwestern side of the map.
Ooh, and North Eption, no stranger to fighting here. We knew they were incredibly talented when it came to that. That is something that stood out throughout Split 1 playoffs, throughout Split 2 playoffs, and now coming in with a new roster, seeing Leica coming in from Naked and Ling stepping into the roster as well. It's been a joy to see them adapt throughout the group stages, and speaking of adapt, Gibby Bubble engaging here against Dark Zero, taking on 100 Thieves. Can Peeps Pick make it through our most recent
As soon as the bubble expires, they've got no choice but to fight close range. Wall goes out, Dark Zero throws in a Horizon ultimate to pressure 100 Thieves out of the building. And the nice thing about being in tree with everyone else is that once the team is out of the building, once 100 Thieves are no longer there, they're no longer your problem. Everyone else is going to be taking shots at them. North Eption and Riddle go down in the meantime, but Dark Zero continue to hold squads out of sharing space with them.
This is crazy because they have Gombre Otosan that is currently in their building on the second story that can kind of just dump down and be like, oh, we want a piece of this. Meanwhile, FaZe not able to make it out despite having all of the loot, despite having an L-Star. The Dojo was able to eliminate them.
Oh, nice swing from Jung-hee, takes down Zainu, and now Dark Zero on the ropes, very much so. Defensive cooldown already wasted for them. Jusna does good work even though he can't see, but Gombre Otosan are struggling to push through all the knuckle clusters that Dark Zero keep throwing at them.
I mean, Jusna on the fuse is just punishment to Dark Zero right now, and I always say, if Gombre is going to contest, if you leave Jusna up, he will go crazy, and that's exactly what I expect here. But 100 Thieves do lose out on Vaxlon, and they're looking to bring him back, but Zainu as well has exited, and Jen Burton and Zero do not have the banner. Meanwhile, think about the capability of trying to get something back in here. It just might not be possible because you have Geo, you have DZ, and it's chaos here with 100 Thieves.
Might be a 2v1 soon. Jen Burton almost finds a knock. 100 Thieves on the disengage. leave just the bubble behind, but Gen's flanked as well. Things are getting really difficult, and LG Chivas are here to clean up.
They're going up against 310 right now, looking for the last member, but just kidding. It's Enterforce 36, and just like that, they are eliminated. LG Chivas will have to focus on that rotation, but as we jump back to GO, to 100 Thieves, this building has been absolutely chaos, and at this point, Dark Zero is just living underneath, like the trolls under a bridge.
And unfortunately, they've got no choice. They need to collect Zainu for their chance to win the game, and they certainly can't be rotating ahead of the squads that will then be leaving this building. This is the exodus that I talked about. This is where we are going to drop so many teams moving out into the open.
Starfight Esports, they are one of the people that are not benefiting the most. And Sleep trying to clutch up, and he is doing work. Sleep, what are you doing? He's away. Complexity is eliminated, and 1 HP. The Dream going for the shield swap. Can we get the reset onto Jinx?
Keeping the dreams of Start a Fight alive right now. We'll see how long they last as Dark Zero need to make their own stand. LG go down, but Genburn bites the dust trying to find a shield swap.
Yo, that's going to be at the hands of Ascend. The last we saw them, they had landed dead center of tree, and we're beginning their own rotation, but as we jump towards the free cam, we'll have to wait to see what happens to the remnants of that squad. I saw a little bit of Ascend there and jumping on board with Tom Young-kun. They are perfectly healthy, currently sitting on 5 points in this series.
And Dojo up on top by Lava Siphon is the team that is in arguably the best position moving towards the next ring. And even in this one, they and Dreamfire are the two squads that have high ground to work with, while teams like Tom Young-kun down here are the ones that unfortunately are in a tighter spot. Dreamfire are going to try and contest the one other team for a chance to win the game. This is a play for the win. Dreamfire sharing space underneath the dojo gives themselves an opportunity to, with them, hold out the rest of the lobby.
Yeah, but this is really tough. You only have 2 members of the dojo trying to hold off Dreamfire. The other third is so separated out, trying to put the pressure on Ascend and keep them where they want them. This is a typical dojo strategy, and if they are sitting on 7 eliminations already, what is going to happen? We knew this is the power of the dojo. You said it yesterday, Dia. The most important series of their life was yesterday. Well, actually, it's probably today.
An incredibly impactful moment for them. We'll see if they can close it out among some of the best teams in the world. We've got a prayer on the outside. Ganbare Otosan taking to the skies and Ascend, just laying in the damage off the side. Start a fight, not going to be able to continue anymore. Sleep, well done, but now it's time for the top 6.
Ascend have the Prowler. You can see he's using it on the full auto, select fire, singing, and post skill. It's so funny. They have some really cool Watson posters over there. They were doing autographs yesterday, and they were saying they felt a little nervous, but it looks like they're shaking some things off. And Tom Young-kun, they're going to have to shake off those nades because way last standing. Very tough. You just have to survive at this point. Because trying to get a reset amidst all the chaos with Ascend on the other side. Unfortunately, they will fall here. Top 4 squads and Ascend are poising themselves to climb back up the group stage leaderboards.
It's nice that Nocturnal ended up picking up the kill as well, because while it was Tom Young-kun that were in the position to be bullied, now it's Xset most of all. Even Ascend have a better position with the Watson Crypto squad that they're running, and importantly, having talked to Kasher before the competition, the value that Crypto provides you in a scenario like this is so high. Your ability to scout and get a full picture of what's going on as an IGL, even start a fight at an advantage with the EMP, could be devastating, jumping onto squads like Dreamfire or Xset if you need to play defense.
Dreamfire is set up so beautifully here. They have all the shield cells they're sharing, but they also have shield swaps available to them. Should Xset decide to push down, they can immediately grab that, because that's the issue here. It's all about timing. With the dojo sitting on top of Dreamfire, Xset cover, it's all about who has to move first and how can you position yourself to make the other teams engage.
Dreamfire's spot is really unusual for them. Most of the time during the course of the last day, during the course of the championship, I should say, they've been the ones that play the active high ground position. Recognizing they finally cannot do that, this is still a game-winning spot. You can hold on to low ground for long enough that you straight up win, but it's going to be critical that they use the Dark Veil to block off lines of sight from other teams like Ascend and Xset, because otherwise it is just going to be third party on fourth party on Dreamfire not being able to find a win.
G7 Scout in the hands of post kill, but only 30 bullets in it. You have to make every single one count. But you can see set taking to the sky, but with the Dojo on high ground, they're able to take down 2 members and knock his last alive. But unfortunately, that was their only option to play for some more eliminations with these 4 squads at each other's throats. L-Star in hands of Timmy now. They're going to start putting some pressure as Dreamfire cleans up the rest of X.
And great Dark Veil to make it happen. Unfortunately, they expose themselves to fire from the high ground height. Take to the skies. They're trying to push up to the Dojo and have no way to do it. Fortunately for Dreamfire, the Dojo have multiple avenues that they need to cover, blocking out exit as well. They've got so little high ground left, and actually, Ascend have the chance to pick up a win here. The other 2 squads, Dreamfire and Dojo, have to fight.
They're trying to retain high ground, go for a shield drop that keeps Timmy alive. That's what I'm used to seeing of Timmy, but Ascend, this is everything for them with the fences, with the Jennies, but they are making the push on the Dreamfire for the win as the Dojo is just eliminated. Luka getting all the damage and Postal destroying himself right into it, and Ascend, they are your winners of match number 1.
Fantastic win for Ascend. It is the day they needed. Had a few questions about them as sitting at 9th coming out of yesterday. They had a lot to prove. The last plan left them wanting so much. And to pick up a win, and a win coming out of Geyser, is the best start they could have had to the second day of championships.
When that zone started to pulling, including that mass exodus, sometimes if you take the center of tree too early, it is almost a death sentence for them to manage being able to play from that position, survive the chaos of the rotate, and still prioritize it. Honestly, I told Postkill he was one of my favorite Watson players yesterday, and that Jenny, the fences, everything saved up.
It really was Watson, right?
Yes.
You and I talked about this earlier, the sacrifice of the Catalyst Watson trade-off. Catalyst so flexible, but so good at what she does. It makes unplayable positions playable. So many do, but in a way that keeps not just abilities from disrupting you, but in the long term, ordinances that, as we saw looking at Dojo, can be game-changing. The nade from completely destroyed Dojo's position on the high ground.
And while we have a relook at the final circle over on board with Ascend, you can see so much ammo in the hands of Posty. Does anyone have light ammo? Says that a lot. I mean, just help me. Regardless, they were able to do so well over here, utilizing that to keep pressure going out. But the moment they see the Dark Veil, they start fencing up. They already have the Jenny at their... No, one's for spare, one at their back. Look, he's just prepped.
And I like that as soon as Dark Veil goes down, you lay down a single fence as well. It may look a bit silly little fence, but it actually really helps because nobody on the other side is available to shoot down that fence. EMP afterwards makes sure that Ascend stay topped up relative to their opponents. And at this point, you just watch the kill feed because eventually we are going to get a nice nade coming in, and that's what ultimately decides the fate of Dojo, leaving Ascend fully in the driver's seat.
I mean, just think, if Postkill would have been Catalyst here, they would have had a Dark Veil and piercing spikes, and all the incoming ordnances that you mentioned would have taken them out. So they bide their time, they see the Dojo get eliminated, and immediately start putting the pressure. But the fact that Postkill just full send straight into the mix of it, has the heirloom out, it's just epic. So congratulations to Ascend, that has to feel good.
I really appreciate watching how it all went down, and with a very different read on the meta as well. Ascend with their first place finish do cop a nice bit of damage, but it's Dojo who finished third, who were the most active during the course of that game, putting out so much work across the rest of the lobby. They didn't pick up as many kills, but you can tell that they were sitting on high ground.
I mean, this is very impressive and very typical of what we saw in a prior series with a lot of the point punching happening on the top 3 teams, allowing for so many changes throughout the later games. But Ascend, a 26-point game to start off the morning is everything that you need. Dreamfire, though, 20 points. And then the Dojo, yeah, you're right, from the high ground, 5K, they are putting pressure on everyone.
Now, I'm sure the Dojo are going to look back at this game and have 100 ways that they could have played it differently. But let us not forget that we have just jumped from LCQ to top 3 on the world stage. This is a great place for them to be, a great place for Dreamfire, and importantly, Ascend. Because Kashera had his confidence shaken after the last land, still was working on it, still playing his own game, and that's what he said. I want to play my own game. I
Alliance
don't want to be taking the read off of anyone
else.
else. It lands them at the top for now, where
First
teams
squad
like
avanga
100
தான்
Thieves
வச்சிருக்காங்க.
didn't quite manage to jump into the top 10. Enter Force 36, Riddle Order, North Eption, and even other great EMEA IGLs like Element 6 and Alliance end up falling very early in our first game of the day.
That's pretty tough.
Solo,
I mean,
bro,
the point
bro.
sponging is definitely noticeable with everyone on the second half of the scoreboard being 0 to 3. You have your work cut out for you because we do start the bracket stages tomorrow. Your goal is to make it into the winners bracket, and that has to start with your second shot.
And as we talked about, points cutoff is really important as we go through today. Some of these teams didn't really get the opportunity to accumulate a lot yesterday. And what was the cutoff that we were talking about?
It was realized with 92 points. That was the cutoff for Split 2 playoffs on the group stages. And Complexity was the one just out 91 points. So you know they're playing here today. They want to get in that winners bracket. They have their work cut out for them. But we're going to cut to a quick break. And when we come back,
5 seconds careful hold. ஆமா bro அதுவும் ஒரு மேட்டர் தான். அப்படி இருந்துச்சுன்னா பறந்த சொருவலாம் பாட்டு வச்சு. போடுங்க சீக்கிரம் போடுங்க. செலக்ட் பண்ணியாடா இது ப்ராப்பர்
இல்லடா பண்ணலடா
பாக்குறியா சுவிட்ச்ல
பார்த்துட்டு தானே இருக்கேன் இன்னைக்கு பார்த்துட்டு தானே இருக்கேன்
நாளைக்கு ஸ்டிக்கர் கொடுப்போம் பேட்ல போடுற மாதிரி
தயாடவே ரியோடு சுத்துறான்
Jojo lost the cross all the team. ஸ்லோ மோட்ல வச்சு இப்படி தெரிக்க விடுறாங்க சுவிட்ச்ல
WD Black, the official storage partner of the Apex Legends Global Series.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Apex Legends Global Series Year 3 Championships. We are live from Birmingham, UK, and I could not be more excited because we got match number 2 after Ascend take that match 1 victory with style, with fences, with Watson.
And with their own game plan is the most important aspect of that. This is something that, as an IGL, differentiates Kashera from so many others, being not focused, honestly, on flexibility. That's what I talked to him about just before this event started, was not about how he's looking at how other teams are playing Bloodhound and how we can play, but he's like, no. I think that the best way to do this is Crypto Watson. So we're going to play Crypto Watson, and if it works, it works. And it worked. And I cannot understand the unshakable confidence that he has in himself, but it has absolutely been worth it here on the world stage.
There's only been a handful of crypto players that we've witnessed throughout the playoffs, one of them being Noises over there on J-Lings, but Kashera has been the mainstay of crypto. His confidence on it, his ability to hit some of the biggest regains has been absolutely insane, often gumming in there with the drone, getting double reses in mid to late game, and you know, honestly, the fact is, when they don't have to do that, look at what they're able to do.
And the biggest part of that pick as well is how much room for error, human error, it just takes out of your game. Because it's all on the ALGL. It's not about, oh, well, you didn't come that they were in exactly this position, or that their fences were set up here, or whatever it was. Because your IGL has all the information, and it's why we see really confident IGLs play crypto so often. A legend that most people would rather choose to forego for a little bit more firepower, instead gets the front row seat to a lot of action as IGLs set up their team to execute on fights with full information.
The difference between playing a very aggressive crypto and getting the information, relaying it, pushing immediately, just maybe like 10 seconds behind to but then rather than sitting in the drone for 50% of the fight ahead of time and trying to kind of micromanage your team.
Defending மச்சானுங்க.
Now, since we've got Ascend in a fantastic position right now, the best thing that we can do is see how that translates into the next couple of games. This time they were over at Geyser, they ended up getting a ring console.
Yes.
That gives you such a head start. And Geyser's a difficult position to play out of. Anyone will tell you that. So my largest question is going to be, when you don't end up having the ring console to help you out, how does that factor in with you having to rotate into places like
ALGS ஒரு நாள் முன்னாடி வரைக்கும் கூட ட்விட்ச்ல ஸ்ட்ரீம் போட்டுட்டு இருந்தான்டா தெரியும்ல மாண்டே
ஜாலியா ட்விட்ச்ல போட்டு
ஜாலியா ட்விட்ச் போட்டுட்டான் என்ன கதைனே தெரியல எனக்கு
ஜாலியா இந்த பையனை
டிஎஸ்எம்எஸ் தானே இது இல்ல இப்ப இந்த அசெண்ட் மேட்ச்
approaching this when the time is right with reckless abandon. Something I really appreciate on the final three, because they played the rest of this really conservatively, as they very much had to. Trapped in this corner with Dojo looking on them from above. As soon as Dojo's out, Ascend and it's only Lufka who's out here going, why? We're running it.
I think that was beautiful that you mentioned the conservative play style of it, because utilizing the marksman rifles from a distance to be able to put damage down on the chaos that's happening in front of them while remaining in cover, because that can be one of the biggest issues with Ascend. When I was watching kind of all the prep and preparation coming into chances,
only abusing
was your
Apex
main
all
striker
possibilities.
overextending? Was that Lufka getting caught off guard? But here, it's completely different just from match number one. So maybe they're starting to adapt and turn the tides. Or maybe, hey, they just woke up, had some good breakfast, and they're feeling themselves.
Two controllers with Horizon. Perfect tracking team.
Well, Dreamfire and the fans in the audience, because they may not have come away with the win at the end of this. It was a very well played
ரெண்டு கண்ட்ரோலர் அங்க அதுல இவன் ஹால் வேற
made this team great during the course of yesterday's game. Sitting up on high ground, prioritizing positions from where they can be active. What really impressed me most was what Graceful was highlighting about this team yesterday. Their ability to make snap decisions, like jumping onto a low ground position that was not as active, that wouldn't get them as many kills, but that still put them in a position to win the game. It is clear that Dreamfire are not just preparing for group stage, because they slaughtered group stage yesterday. They're now preparing themselves for the finals, for the championship first place, by playing for the win. Like we saw even Optic be able to do yesterday. Picking up 2 wins in a row. If you can do that, if you can pick up 2 wins during the course of a group stage, that is a testament to how much easier match point is going to be for you. And that's got to be Dreamfire's focus.
team
to think about, right? Because we
Guild
start
controller.
going through group stages.
Demon.
It's not that they don't matter. That's how you position yourself throughout the bracket stages. But
second layer, third layer தான் bro overall killsல.
Teams are staying alive so much longer. They're playing
Guild தான் second ல இருக்கான்.
but they're also, that's only once they've hit match point. The
21 kills
that
Guild.
ensues, the macro that goes out the window while you're trying to accumulate those first 50 points to get on that threshold is something that will be completely different. And our teams that are playing in group stages, think of, Alliance, that they have effect here, so dominating in the group stages, but didn't necessarily perform the best on finals day.
Yeah, and that's the curse that haunts them. I think, funnily enough, I
இப்போதைக்கு நம்ம ஸ்குவாட்ல ரெண்டு கண்ட்ரோலர் இல்ல மூணு கண்ட்ரோலர்
It's mirrored with Ascend, right? Ascend made it all the way to finals. They had a finals performance that will haunt their
நீ ஒரு கண்ட்ரோலர்
I think felt very similarly. I did talk to Hakis about it. Well, he was not shaken. Their fans certainly
starting
really well. what
நேத்து மாதிரி ஒரு
happened? Why
comeback match
weren't we able to
போடுங்கடா
close it
டேய்.
out after such a
Mandeva
fantastic
காணோம்.
tournament? And it is clear
அவன காட்டுங்கடா
that
அவன் தான்
they
பெரிய
do
ஆளு
have to
காட்டுங்கடா
step to that
தலைவனை காட்ட மாட்டறாங்கடா டேய்
in the
டேய்
finals.
ஏய் Mande இல்ல
Big finals
எங்க
for
இருக்கா?
Mande
Alliance.
இல்ல Alliance-ல?
Utterly unacceptable. Based on the
Effect
position
வந்தானா
that
என்ன?
they have already placed themselves in. So, as we move forward, as Effect, thankfully, has
அவனால
been able
குட்டி
to
பையனா?
join us. It's time for them to regain that
Hi,
synergy
Praveen
despite the
Glorison.
challenges that they've had
காலேஜ்ல
during the
இருக்கீங்களா
course of
வீட்ல
this
இருக்கீங்களா?
the past 24 hours alone.
Exactly. You think about those past 24 hours. Yes, Effect is in the building.
Think
I don't
back
even know what
before
time
you
he got it, whether it was
played
yesterday, whether it
how
was
was
this
your
morning.
week?
But the moment he got cleared to play on that stage, he got in that booth and is ready to throw down. So I'm chalking map number 1 up to a warm-up, right? It's his first time kind of stepping back into the fray of things, where Split 2 Playoffs was his first ever
Party hour
LAN
message.
performance. And, you know, Alliance, they recently brought on
Think
Nom
back before you
FPS
played in
as their
Mouse.
Apex
How
coach,
was your
and
game?
recently started sitting in with them on international
We
scrims,
to
kind
lay,
of working
bro.
to even further
வீட்டுலே
that
இருந்தா
team
எங்க
a
bro
strong
வாய்ஸ்
Just like
செட்டுக்கே
that
வரல.
That they really do. And I don't think that we can doubt that about the performance that we've
Just
seen
like
from
that we can
Alliance
learn
so
to control
far.
it.
It is really about whether they can keep that consistent as
ஆனா
other
நம்ம
teams
இதுல டீசென்ட்டா
continue
கண்ட்ரோலர்
to
ஆடுறது
change their
நாஜி
play
ஆடுவாங்க.
styles and their, I want to say, game plan during the course of the next couple of games, during the course of the next couple of days, because right now we're just in the second day group stage,
Hey,
already very
Praveen
different
Glory
than the
வீட்ல
first. Already
இருக்காரா?
you've been able to research your opponents on
வரமாட்டாரு பாரு.
land, not just
Bro,
ஏய்
வாய்ஸ்
முடிஞ்சிருக்குடா
சரியா?
ஏய் காலேஜ்
even
வரைக்கும்
during the course of
முடிஞ்சிருக்குடா
this. We're going to finish today off,
Hey,
and then
வீட்டுலே
we're
bro
jumping into
அப்படின்னு
winners and
போட்டுருக்காரு.
losers bracket that
அதான்
is
ஒரு
so much
college
higher
முடிஞ்சிருச்சு
stakes, where
புரியுதா?
playstyles
என்ன voice?
change once again.
Discard
where people will start to go
Discard
home.
ல
We're
Apex
gonna
ஏய்
start
ஏய்
picking
ஏய் நம்ம
legends,
புது
'cause
சர்வர்ல
match
இருக்கோம்டா
number
வெச்சறா
2.
Is that a caustic for
Do we have-
Area 310?
We got a caustic?
Glorison வேணா ஆட்
We're gonna have
பண்ணிடுங்க.
some gas traps. We were talking about it in match number 1. We're
Ah.
like, where is our defense? It's a Wraith, Caustic, Loba.
அனுப்பிட்டேன்னு சொல்றா வர சொல்றா
Loba! Did not have
Glorison.
that on my bingo card. And honestly, it's
நல்லா
putting me
இவ்வளோ
in
அப்பா.
a medically
இவனோட
unsound
server request
position.
அனுப்பிச்சிருக்கோம்
That's
பாருங்க.
not doing good things for
அந்த
my
voice
heart,
வந்துருங்க.
but we'll see how it works out for them. As right now, I like the theory. I do like seeing different legend
புது server
compositions.
ஒரு
And
request
Wraith is
அனுப்பிச்சிருக்கோம் bro.
somebody
Glory
who
bro.
I think people could be making more use of.
அது
One of the
accept பண்ணிட்டு
interesting
வந்துருங்க.
things is that as soon as we saw Catalyst enter the meta, as soon as Catalyst was released,
Bro.
we saw her really slot in for Wraith in more scenarios than not, which sounds a little bit weird, but the micro rotations they provided in
என்ன
the late
bro
game are
புரியலையே.
actually very similar.
அவன்
If
பாவமா
anything,
மூஞ்சி வச்சா நான்
Catalyst
என்ன
gets to
பண்றது?
be more aggressive, gets to be a little bit less predictable. So picking that legend up again is really to unleash
வாங்க
your
பெரிய யூடியூபர் வாங்க சீக்கிரம் வாய்ஸ்
and get a little bit riskier in the positioning, being able to make use of the tactical, not so much the ultimate.
I was told that Area 310 actually played the same
Oh,
card in
that's all
match
right.
number 1. They just must have not made it to our
Oh.
broadcast, but here we are,
Ah.
finally seeing it. Super exciting about it. Riddle Order, they will benefit from the hot zone. They do have a beacon of sorts over there. FaZe getting their own ring
Wow,
console
நீங்களா
at
வந்தோன்னு என்னப்பா
Climatizer, and that is true.
நல்லா இருக்கு.
Gombre, Otosan, and LCDF, instead of challing at Big Mod, they're going to go and split Stacks and Big Mod accordingly. But you know who's really benefiting from this? LG Chivas, able to take both launch site and dome.
என்ன
As a
காலேஜே
result,
போல
they
போல
roll themselves a ring console, which is good.
Really,
Because all the way in
என்ன
the south, they've got to hoof
Start
it
பாரு.
up towards the north. We've got a zone that's
Right,
pretty
போயிட்டு
much
வந்துட்டீங்களா?
right around the
Okay,
landscape
okay.
half day
there,
தானே
and both
college?
Rex, fortunately, are going to know this.
இல்ல,
It's great,
exam நடக்கிற
because when you land landslide and
Oh,
the ring is
okay,
pulling
okay,
to you,
okay.
you may as well make use of it. I'll tell you
அதுதானே
what's
bro,
going to
அப்படியே.
know is XZ likely element 6.
அதுதான்
from
இங்க half day
the
ன்னு
north.
சொன்னேன்.
Dropping over by
Half day னா
Skyhook,
அதுதான்
you've got a lot of loot, and now you've got a lot of
நீங்க
information to
நீங்க
make
ரொம்ப
use of.
பண்றீங்க.
Dreamfire in the ring as well. This is going to be an interesting
சரி,
circle. A
நாங்கெல்லாம்
lot
பார்த்து
of powerhouses just
ஏன்னா
found
இன்ஜினியரிங்
out
எடுத்தோம்
that we're
பேசாம
playing
அவன
in
மாதிரி
their
எடுத்து
house.
ஜாலியா
Definitely
இருந்திருக்கலாம்.
are. You can see Riddle Order kind of going over towards
காலையில
the
ஈவினிங் ஜாலியா
so
சுத்தலாமேடான்ற
they're
மாதிரி
splitting it
இருந்திருக்கு.
out and being able to get not only a ring console but have access to a survey.
Bro,
beacon,
copyright
but
எல்லாம்
a
இருந்துச்சா
landslide.
உங்களுக்கு?
He will live for eating.
Such
ஆமா bro, பண்ணாலும் பண்றாரு
you
அவரு.
start to think of the
Praveen bro.
possible pulls that could happen
சரி,
there.
இவரா?
So
Solo bro,
overall,
solo bro.
Solo bro வா?
He will live for eating. ஆமா சாப்பிட்டுக்கிட்டே இருப்பாரு bro மாசா. நான் நிலக்கடலை சாப்பிட்டு வரேங்க இருங்க எங்க பசிக்குதுங்க எனக்கு.
Like high ground is so important.
சாப்பிட்டா ஒரு எனர்ஜி கிடைக்கும்.
Whether it be sniper tower,
அதுக்குன்னு over energy
north,
தேவையில்ல.
or slide proper, even the high ground outside of
இன்னைக்கு அந்த மேட்ச்ல மச்சான் நான் வந்துட்டு ஸ்டார்டிங்ல ஒரு 2 டீம் அடிச்சு அவனுங்க ரிவைவ் பண்ணி விட்டேன் மச்சான். அந்த ஒரே காரணத்துக்கு தான் அவனுங்க டீம்ல வச்சுக்கிட்டானுங்க. இல்லனா நான் சாவடான்னு விட்டுருப்பாங்க. கடைசி ஜோன்ல 4 தடவை நாக்கு மச்சான் நானு. 4 தடவை என்ன ரிவைவ் பண்ணி செத்து போன அவனுங்க கிட்ட. ஆனா என்ன பண்ணானா ஆப்போசிட் டீம்ல இருக்கவனுங்க வந்து 2 நாக்கு வச்சிட்டேன். இவனுங்க ஏறவே இல்ல. பயந்து உட்கார்ந்துகிட்டே இருந்தானுங்க. புரியுதா? ஏறி தான் அடிச்சிருக்கலாம். ஓகே என் கூட வந்திருந்தாங்க ஸ்குவாட் எப்பவே முடிச்சிருக்கும். பட் ஆனா அந்த 4 தடவை நாக்கு அனுப்பி அடிச்சிட்டு what man why you getting knocked always அப்படின்றான். டேய் பொறம்போக்கு நீங்க ஏற மாட்டீங்கடா. ஏன்டா புரிஞ்சிக்க மாட்டீங்க? நல்லா இருந்துச்சு அந்த மேட்ச். நான் கடைசில சாம்பியன் வந்துச்சு. அது வரைக்கும் பெரிய விஷயம் தான்.
சூப்பரா விளையாண்டிருக்காரு பாத்தீங்களா?
எங்க
Exit fortunately were able
சாட்டே
to
நான் அப்லோட் பண்ணல. அதுக்குள்ள சூப்பரா விளையாண்டிருக்காரு.
good able to defend their POI or their landing.
bro என்னோட நாங்களான மேட்ச்
Otherwise, countdown. It's really curious that Dreamfire would end up doing this. A lot of people would ask themselves, why would Dreamfire rotate away from the ring? And it's because they don't know where the ring is going yet. They've come up here for the chance to access a little bit of loot.
நேத்து நைட் ஆடுனாங்க. Midnight team start பண்ணாங்க.
The opportunity to pick up either a survey beacon or a ring console. As it is though, they found themselves no nice attachments, very little
அவர் கால்ல இருந்து வெறித்தனமா ஆடிட்டு இருக்காரு.
and they're trapped right underneath Exit, which is a
யாரு?
place to be.
நேத்து ப்ரோவா?
Teams rotate through Skyhook looking for the information
தெரியல
that
வரவே மாட்டாரு. ஸ்ட்ரீம் வந்தா நல்லா இருக்கும்.
bro போட்டுருக்காரு பாருங்க.
in their landing
என்ன போட்டுருக்காரு?
alongside Dark
இதுல போட்டுருக்காரு.
Zero
winning
on
moves
the
பாருங்க.
high ground. They've made their way
bro.
from
அவர் அதான்
Harvester
bro
on
அவரு
early rotation and they've
ப்ரோ ஆவணும்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஆடிட்டு இருக்காரு ப்ரோ. இன்னொன்னு அவருக்கு வந்துட்டு கொஞ்சம் டோர்னமெண்ட்ஸ் போனா அந்த மாதிரி ஆடிட்டு இருக்காரு. என்னால
ஆனா என்ன சொல்றது கொஞ்சம் டைம் கொடுக்கணும் bro. அதுக்கு கொஞ்சம் ரெஸ்ட் எடுக்கணும்.
அதுதான் பாவம் ஒரு உடம்பு சரியில்லாம போயிடுமோ தான் எனக்கு பயமா இருக்கு.
விட புடியே ஆடிட்டு இருக்காரு.
Landslide is in play. Holding specifically landslide high ground.
ப்ரோ அவர் எடுத்தோனே வந்து நான் 10வது படியில தான் கால வைப்பாங்க.
You know we didn't really want
that the catalyst main பண்ண போறது சொல்லிட்டு இருந்தாரு.
Dark Zero, they hold a grudge and Zero is getting so aggressive on the side, huge cracks with the grenade and Dark Zero continue to push up with Jen Burton finding a fry, no knock, but that's a matter of formality as now you've got Saku and Vita down the ground.
அல்ட்ரான வர ரெண்டு பேர் சேர்ந்தாங்க.
என்ன குரூட் ப்ரோ?
I am Groot.
ஓ படமா ப்ரோ ரிலீஸ் ஆயிடுச்சா?
சீரிஸ்.
இதுலயா ப்ரோ நம்ம ஹாட்ஸ்டார்லயா?
ஆமா ப்ரோ.
பாத்துறலாம்.
சீசன் 2 ஒரு கொஞ்ச நேரம் தான் ப்ரோ வீடியோ
Load this on cooldown. Get the opportunity to push up again. Dark Zero do take just another fight
First
though.
Groot பார்த்தது இல்லையா?
Into the RV
இல்ல bro,
down. It's Alliance who take the contest up against them. Get the opportunity to knock down the number 1 team from yesterday. Alliance are going to take it, moving up quite aggressively.
ஏய் எஃபெக்ட் வந்துட்டான்டா. மாண்டே போய்ட்டான்.
ஒரு மேட்ச் வந்து போனா போல.
நேத்து ஒரு நாள் வந்து போனான்.
வல்கிரி ரிவார்ட் கொடுப்பாங்க.
அப்ப இன்னைக்கு தலபதி மாண்டே டீம் பாப்போம்னு நினைக்கிறேன்.
a little dangerous as Zainu is able to stay up, utilizing Zero's knuckle cluster to hold off the push. The black hole not gonna connect, but when you get stuck, that makes things so much difficult. Effect not taking any time to focus. He's getting into the grab lift, has to heal, and they're gonna prioritize the res.
It's really important.
என்ன விட்டுருங்கடா சோனாம தாண்டு போய்ட்டான் வந்து.
Yuki joining him. Zero gets to push you all the way out, and Dark Zero with the defensive performance of a lifetime in this RV managed to hold on 2v2.
இந்த இடத்துல ஒரு மேட்ச்
வல்கிரி ஸ்கின் எடுத்துட்டீங்களா?
எடுத்தாச்சு.
நல்லா இருக்கா bro அது?
நல்லா இருக்கா இல்லையான்னு நம்ம சொல்ல முடியாது. குடுக்குறானுங்க பாக்குறதுக்கு.
ஃப்ரீயா குடுக்குறானுங்க.
கலெக்ஷன்ல இருக்க வேண்டியது.
ஒரு லெஜெண்டரி எல்லாம் கொடுத்தா நல்லா இருக்கும்.
அப்படி எல்லாம் தர மாட்டானுங்க. இப்ப வந்து இதுதான் குடுக்குறானுங்க ஸ்கின்னே. அப்பனா வந்து ஏபெக்ஸ் பேக் கொடுப்பானுங்க. ஒரு 4 பேக்கோ 5 பேக்கோ கொடுப்பானுங்க.
It is another much like Dreamfire's position last game.
பேக் ஏபெக்ஸ் பேக்.
They get the gatekeeper rotates that might come from the south as well.
அத கொடுக்காம இப்ப இந்த மாதிரி மாத்திட்டாங்க.
Teams that might rotate down from countdown. Could be forced into that later. And of course, Dark Zero have chosen to play the RV for now. The thing is that's a two-way street, and Zero gets chunked down, does trade a little bit of damage back. Minimizing the opportunity for
on 4100
get all of his health back off the Phoenix kit, and they'll be able to play this wall for a little while.
In 100 Mbps, bro.
Small bit of pressure here and there.
Well, you have one member of Alliance actively keeping a lookout on that southern choke point because there will likely be rotations through there. So trying to anchor in that role and keep Dark Zero from kind of moving closer to them. Because we have to start to think about who's going to be potentially rotating. In gameல அடி வாங்குது. Gameplay. Whether they decide to rotate to the choke point on that northeast or whether they go through stages on them. But for the teams that are on the north side, they'll be rotating in towards
தலைமா அப்படியே சிவஎஃப்எஸ் இறங்குறானா எல்லாம் நவருங்கடா.
வெறித்தனமா இருக்கும்டா. நான் எல்லாரையும் தூக்கி போட்டுறான் வந்தானு. அவன் தோக்கறானா வின் பண்றானா எனக்கு சிவஎஃப்எஸ் தான்.
ஆனா பயங்கர ஃபைட் பண்ணுவான்.
And while nobody was in landslide proper, Enter Force 36 are playing through the tunnel
என்ன மாதிரி பிளேயரால சிவா
வெறியா ஆடுவான்.
Maybe not one Dark Zero want to push, but certainly
full screen ஆச்சுறானே.
It's safer for them having
என்னது bro?
shield cells.
கமாண்ட் சைடுல ஓட நம்ம full screen ஆச்சானே.
Okay கூடாது. Maintain that as opposed to that high ground, but Riddle
நீங்க எதுல சொல்றீங்க OBSலயா?
இதுல
மச்சான் நீ ஸ்கிரீன் ஃபுல் மச்சான் full screen வைடா லைவ் நீ பாதி ஸ்கிரீன் தான்டா இருக்கு.
This is a tough fight.
இல்ல இருக்கட்டும். அட ட்விட்ச்ல ப்ளே ஆவற மாதிரியாச்சு இருக்கும்.
Respectively, but it's Ganbare Otosan that will go down Riddle, collecting the additional kills, the much needed kills, and now the opportunity to be third parted. We've got LG Chivas pushing up on them and a whole other fight breaking out in Skyhook.
Dreamfire and
போன சீசன் எடுத்தாங்க bro.
For that information and Exet, they have landed in Skyhook.
ஹெல்ப்ஃபுல்லா தான் பண்றா.
They are so comfortable.
அதாவது டீம்மேட் எனிமி டீம்மேட்ட வெறுப்பேத்தி விட்டுருவான் சத்தியமா. நம்மளே எத்தனை வெறுப்பேத்தி விட்டுருக்கான். செத்தே போயிருக்கான் அந்த நாயால சத்தியமா.
Nocturnal on the offhand hits a finisher on Roy.
As long as Yanya is alive, LG Chivas, they can win a whole fight in just the course of a few seconds. And they're doing pretty well with it right now. Yanya will actually be able to get a lot of HP right back off the shield cell since he's running a gold shield, but it is still ultimately a 2v2. Nice pressure leak down with the Pharaoh fluid, and now the fight for high ground begins. Yanya gets fried, but trades out with Jaguars for a good crack. Not enough to be confident pushing off of. Instead, they're the ones that have lost momentum, and Jaguars loses half the no high ground to work with, and Yanya is still making this a fight.
It's going to be me and Jay that was left standing, but he was able to turn around and find him and take Riddle order out now. Let me just tell you, it was the 2 gold shields on the hands of LG Chivas that allowed them to stay alive throughout that engagement. Without those, I think it would have looked
as long as Yanya is alive, LG Chivas can still win the fight. Now with a decent rotate.
பாரு Dreamfire பாரு ஏரியா 310 full வரைச்சு zone outல இருக்கானுங்க. Zone out.
Let's not forget that Enter Force 36 are right behind this if it gets too hairy.
பக்கத்துல இன்னொரு ஸ்குவாட்.
Still have teams that are working their way from outside of zone. Dreamfire, Peta trying to make something happen on the outside. We know about all of the ring changes that have happened. It makes surviving.
அடே கோபாலங்களா நல்லா தான்டா ஆடுறீங்க. ஏன்டா zone outல இருக்கீங்க? அவன் ஒரே ஒரு ஆள் தான் Dreamfireல.
No way. The King Peta and
ஏய் காசிக்கு வா. தலபதி நீ ஓடுவியாப்பா சோனுக்கு.
310 are going to get the respawn. This is rough and definitely not what they wanted to deal with as their composition. The way they're playing right now, Area 310 want to play passive. Use Loba.
தப்பு நடக்கும் bro. அவனுங்களும் லைக் பண்ணுவானுங்க தான். பட் ஆனா நம்ம பண்ற மாதிரி ரொம்ப பெரிய
points position yet.
He's going out.
இல்ல போலடா கிட்ட.
2 syringes and zone outல for the rotation. I don't think it was going to be enough, but at least getting one elimination before going out is going to at least help them in the distance on
points. Seriously அவனுக்கு புது டீம் bro. வேற லெவலா.
The biggest attack.
Dreamfire தானே?
10 syringes, 4 med kits.
Dreamfire தான் குட்டி பையன் ஹார்ட் ஷேப்.
அழகா இருவான்.
At that point,
cute ஆ
take zone 6. Whatever.
அடிச்சலாம். வடில உட்காருங்க அப்படின்ற மாதிரி இருந்துச்சு பாக்குறது.
Timmy dojo.
Have picked a fight.
It
may not be the best position for the dojo. It's not one they've got lost control of just yet. Their opportunity to rotate does go to either side, and a gold knockdown will let Design get back up with way more health than he had initially. Now Dojo's problems aren't over yet as Designful goes down again. Now that enemy's got the Catalyst wall up,
Dojo gali
defense and one that Dojo just completely lost track of. No digis, no communication, no shot against Complexity.
Complexity timed that frag grenade on that design full res so
Alliance
impeccably because if that hadn't happened, he would have been able to get a little bit more help
Dark Zero na bande
that fight and already utilizing the Dark Veil.
Dark Zero silent ah
our tides are turned over to Alliance. 16 squads
அவனுக்கு சண்டையை மட்டும் காட்டவே மாட்டாங்க ஆனா அவங்க சாம்பியன்ஸ் தெரியுமா
bro
ஏய் அவன் கடைசில தான ஃபைட் எடுப்பானுங்க
bro third party chain வாங்குங்க bro அவனுக்கு பயங்கரமா எடுப்பாரு
started off in a fantastic place for the ring and yet have just been constantly sent by squads and to deal with so many contests that they eventually get
இதுவா
phase X set now
இதுவும் வெளில போயிடா டிஎஸ்எம் வெளில போற மாதிரி கூட்டி போயிடுவாங்க bro இவங்க ஆடுறது அது
பைத்தியக்காரன்
36 falls as well.
Oh, battery one more summer one போடுறாங்க
we just had 16 squads and now chaos is breaking out.
அவனுங்க கிட்ட அவனுங்க பிங் எல்லாம் ரொம்ப கம்மியா இருக்கும் bro சிஸ்டம் ரொம்ப ஃபாஸ்டா ஸ்மூத்தா இருக்கும்
அவங்க 260 ஹெர்ட்ஸ்ல ஆடுவாங்கன்னு நினைக்கிறேன் FPS ல
ஆமா பிங்கே இருக்காது அவங்களுக்கு எனக்கு தெரிஞ்சு யாருக்குமே அப்படி இருந்தா நாம நீங்களே ஆடலாம் நம்மளாம் 70-80 ஆடுறோம் அவங்க 40-20 ஆடுவாங்க
how many gold knockdown shields are in there but not bad on element 6 for going out there. They had just wiped LCTF and Tom Young-kung. They went straight in for the third party. They didn't have a whole lot of time to regain there, but now with TYK having the available to them, it is on them to decide, hey, where do we want to rotate down towards? We know Complexity had already cleared out that northwestern side, and North Epson was making such a late rotation in, but Dark Zero still able to survive, now sitting on double red of gold. They got shield bats, have a little more ammo than they had previously, and are finally able to start working.
This is how we play in RV too. Plenty of catalyst, goop, plenty of ability to fortify the doors, and Dark Zero are going to make this position look a lot stronger than it did before them. With LG right behind and 100 Thieves on the high ground, we're about to see why it's so difficult to make rotations out of landslide work. Motherload drops down from Dark Zero. They're fighting on two fronts.
Dark Zero fight காமிக்கறாங்க
by 100 Thieves with every move they make.
That's exactly what 100 Thieves has been prioritizing.
அண்ட போடுற மாதிரி தான் இருப்போம் சண்டை போட மாட்டோம்.
Focus on North Epson or will they focus on 100T? Let's jump in for a listen in and check it out.
I think this is a different team than yeah, definitely. That's a different team than our team.
Don't know, right?
எவ்வளவு வால் வேணா போடுங்கடா நாங்க சண்டைக்குள்ள
No, they just cacked you here though.
Yeah, they're like
team play.
இது ஒரு நல்ல ஸ்ட்ராட்டஜி தான்டா அவன் வின் பண்றதுக்காக எல்லாம் பண்றானுங்க பட் ஆனா நமக்கு பார்க்கிறதுக்கு எரிச்சலா இருக்குல அது
somebody carry back. I need to stay with carry back. They're behind the box.
Can you look at back?
லெஃப்ட்ல அவனுங்க இருக்கானுங்க பாரு அலைன்ஸ் இருக்கானுங்க பாரு
Oh, in zone. Here we are.
High team, I dropped.
சூர்யா சொன்னால
Just yell at us.
ஒன் கிளிப் பண்ணுவான் அவன் அலைன்ஸ் அவன் ஓட்டான்
17 bullets இல்ல ஒன் கிளிப்
Is that good?
இப்ப தெரியல இப்ப பண்றதா லாஸ்ட் டைம்
பவர் ஃபியூஸ்
more for like 30.
ஜாலியா போடுவான்டா கியூ அந்த ஸ்கின்டா புது ஸ்கின்
நான் வச்சிருக்கேனே
Bro, you
பசங்க மச்சான்
அலைன்ஸ் ஃபைட்
yeah.
கண்டிப்பா சொல்றேன் ஃபியூஸ் எலும்பு தான் வாங்கிடுவேன் நான் பார்க்கவே மாட்டேன்
Picking them all.
Is it really good?
Yeah.
பா அந்த கேரக்டர் நம்ம கரெக்ட்டா ஆடுனா வேற லெவலுக்கு ஏய் நான் நல்லா தான ஆடுவேன் மேரே ஏய் ஒண்ண பாத்தி சொன்னனடா
இல்லடா சொல்றேன் ஏய் உண்மையிலேயே சொல்றேன்டா எனக்கு அந்த கேரக்டர் ரொம்ப ஜாலியா இருந்துச்சு ஆனா அதை விட டீமுக்கு வந்து ரொம்ப யூஸ்ஃபுல்லா இருக்குது நம்ம பெங்களூர்ன்றனால தான் நான் மாறேன் அதே மாதிரி அந்த கேம் பிளேவும் நிறைய டிஃபரெண்டா ஆச்சுல எனக்கு அப்படியே நான் இத வச்சு ஆடும்போது மோஸ்ட் ப்ரோ உங்களுக்கு ஒரு விஷயம் தெரியும் என்னன்னா நான் ஒரு 10 மேட்ச்ல 6 மேட்ச் தான் ப்ரோ கியூவே போடுவேன் கியூஸ் இருந்தா
got a little bit of damage on enough to take
QA போட்டு ஆட மாட்டேன் bro பெரிய தப்பு பண்ணுவாங்க
பெங்களூர்ல தான் ஸ்மோக் போட்டா
different journey in fighting Alliance who have the low ground and with the Vex down with Alliance gone Complexity own the southwestern side of the
Alliance போட்டானுங்கடா Complexity ஜீரோ பாரு அந்த வீட்டுக்குள்ளே தான் இருக்கானுங்களே தவிர ஃபைட் எடுக்கறாங்க உள்ள நேடு போட்டு சாவடிங்கடா டேய்
40th place. They knew that their backs were up against the wall. They needed to perform here today, and they are starting off so strong. At least 7 eliminations for the team, with 6 squads remaining that could easily turn into double digits. They turn their sights on a North Action, but not before Zero wants to get in on the action. The mother load down, but this almost looks more like a defensive mother load.
It definitely is. They're making sure that LG can push up onto them. ELG gonna do nothing in the face of that. Mother load not affected. 100 Thieves instead, the ones that were previously saved between LG and DZ have gotten to survive for a little while longer, and it is only a little while. Post kill can hit the floor. See how long he's able to survive as Dark Zero are on the hunt.
That was a double res from Kashera with the drone.
அப்படியே கீழ விழுவாம அப்படியே மேல பறந்து போனாங்க.
ஆமாடா எப்படி பண்ணான்டா அது?
தெரியல எப்படி கீழ விழுவாம மேல பறந்து போனா? சீனியர் பிளேயர் கீழ ப்ரோ சோலோ ப்ரோ எப்படி ப்ரோ பறந்து போனா அவன் கீழ விழுவாம? சொல்லு ப்ரோ இது சொல்லி கொடு ப்ரோ அது.
What a great punish off of the horizontal.
சோலோ ப்ரோ இருக்கீங்களா? அவன பாத்தீங்களா இல்லையா? டிராப் ஷிப் வரும்போது எப்படி ப்ரோ அப்படி மூவ்மென்ட் கொடுத்து குதிச்சா?
ஒருவேளை இல்ல செஞ்சு கீழ கியூ போட்டுருப்பானோ ஹாரிசானே.
ஏய் எதுமே போடலடா. அவன் அப்படியே மூவ்மென்ட் கொடுத்து நவுந்தான்டா அவன். எனக்கு தெரிஞ்சு ஓரளவுக்கு தான் நவர முடியும். அந்த மாதிரி நவர முடியுமா? ராட் பண்றான் பாரு. வாழ்க்கை வச்சு வாழ்க்கை ஐடென்டிட்டி வேற லெவல் ஆடுறா டேய். ஐயோ
LG haven't noticed him just yet, but noise and nice turnaround. All it takes is one drop.
Hey, Dark Zero baru. Da baru.
In a similar spot. He's been sniffed out. Out comes the
bro, புடிச்சிருக்கா bro பிரவீன் லோர் செஞ்சது.
செமையா இருக்கு bro. யாம் bro.
இல்ல bro, நாங்க ரெண்டு பேரும் வந்து இந்த கேமை பார்க்க விட சொன்னா பார்த்துட்டே இருப்போம் நாங்க. சீரியஸா நைட் வரைக்கும் கூட நாங்க பார்த்துட்டே இருப்போம். பட் ஆனா வந்துட்டு அவ்வளவு நேரம் நிறைய பேர் பார்க்க மாட்டாங்க. அதனால தான் உங்களுக்கு கேக்குறேன்.
Map 2 winners, and just like that,
Northampton
from the APAC North LCQ
சொல்லவே முடியாது bro. சம்பந்தமே இல்லாம ஒரு டீம் ஜெயிச்சு போய்டும் நடுவுல.
Did have a difficult rotate. They were being harassed by DZ and 100 Thieves both as they moved in from the south, but it's this little bit of mirroring that they get to pull off on 100
Northampton,
making sure that 100 Thieves one nice side of the ring, draw plenty of attention, and they're able to play off of just a little box in the north for long enough that all of Landslide completely devolves. Alliance end up falling to complexity instead. It is a fantastic victory for them to walk in and take.
Let me just tell you, I love those Northampton fans out there. I might have to go find myself one of those. That's super cute. I saw Riddle ones yesterday. Now we've got Northampton fans and all of the signs. So cool to see. If you guys haven't checked out, there is a whole merch zone just outside the stage, and you can find some really
நம்ம ஊருக்கு தெரிஞ்ச ஒரே கேம் BGMI மட்டும் தான்.
Exploring yesterday, I know you guys are a little Riddle fan.
BGMI Free Fire.
I'm a big fan. Pun intended.
அத தாண்டி வெளில வர மாட்டேங்கிறாங்க யாரும்.
Oh, look at you, Dio, with your puns. It was Catalyst yesterday, it's fans today. But regardless, North Eption are your winners of match number 2 in such impeccable style.
After that win, I like that we get the celebrations, a bit of pictures, I'm sure, being taken. However, their focus, of course, has to be on how that game came about and how they can replicate their success moving into the next little while. There are a couple ways to win an end game in Apex Legends, and for the sake of the sanity of everyone, we don't have to list all of them. But the way that North Eption employed was largely staying out of everyone's sights. They didn't hold a power position at any point, and instead played a game of timing towards the end of the game. It helped that they're pretty darn good at clicking on heads, as that was the real deciding variable up against LG. But the rotation through the north was one that was actually pretty darn stressful. They almost went down a couple of times. The thing is that even in a spot like this, why would you ever push Leica when you could instead take out Alliance? North Eption do not have a good position to play.
Well, this was the best position for them, turning the tides towards the end. They had flown in initially behind Dark Zero, but Complexity had saw them. Given all of their engagements throughout Landslide, they wrap around, and that was the end of the fight that we just witnessed. North Eption cleans their side out after taking Complexity and are able to start focusing forward.
of course, they have a gold knockdown shield.
Everyone, you get a gold knockdown, you get a gold knockdown. Look, I can never find gold knockdowns unless I play Skirmisher, I'm scanning the care packages left and right, and I'm like, all right, I'll go get that one.
Yeah, even then, you know, I find more gold helmets than I do gold knockdowns, but this was the point where it became not a 2v3 and really just a disgusting finish from North Eption. 3v1 with everything they could ever want, red, purple armors, and a beam like that opens them up fantastically. But it was LG that made it to second place, and LG, whose praises we were singing during the course of the entire mid-game. A big part of that, of course, Yanya, makes it possible for them to survive, and as we said, as long as he's alive, there's a chance.
Oh, as long as Yanya is in the mix, it's getting crazy. 1,700 damage dealt, 9 eliminations alone. That is absolutely massive. So you think about that rotation and their timing on coming through Monument into the tunnel, and Gonbere was there. All the teams that were moving towards there started a fight at one point, and they just kept pushing through. And as we look at our top 3 teams, what is that number by LG Chivas, Dia?
Yeah, it's
what is that?
Parra, hey, tournament la evlo damage பண்றாடா இதெல்லாம்.
They were able to
இப்படி எல்லாம் கஷ்டம் 5000 டா. ஆளுக்கு 6000 வரும்.
To LG, and that is no coincidence. One of the best fighting teams, as we said, in North America. Definitely demonstrates that here on the international stage. Well, Dark Zero right below them actually put up similar damage numbers, and it's funny that we see these two placed right next to each other over the course of time, because LG up after yesterday, with Dark Zero obviously having already taken a first place in their own group.
Pretty consistent ascend even after kind of that late game reset by Kashera, and everyone splitting up and just trying to survive and salvage as many placement points, grab 5, and that's off the back of winning match number 1. So they're sitting in a good place, but that is what you need to do. Complexity able to grab 9 eliminations, jumping on to the other half. This is where things got super weird, right? Why were there so many teams in Skyhook? I saw a little bit of the game chat. Everyone's asking why Skyhook, and we called it out. They needed the information for the locations and the drop spots. Teams didn't have certain consoles. They had to go to Skyhook to potentially get it.
And especially in a game like Apex Legends, it's a game of imperfect information. And when teams and players are asking, well, why did everyone go to Skyhook? It's not because they don't understand. They went to Skyhook too. It's a great place to be. The problem is that when you're rotating into a place like Skyhook, you're predicting that many other teams won't be there. And you're taking that gamble and saying, well, this doesn't seem like the best position. And if everybody takes that gamble at the same time, it doesn't turn out too well. I love those glasses, man. Those are fantastic.
And, well, here's the thing. All of this looks good. Those glasses look amazing. But you know what's also really cool? The fact that we've got watch parties lined throughout the stadium. Peeps caught up with one of our watch partiers earlier. So let's go ahead and see what that's about.
Tiffany, thank you so much. Here we have Restia, the one, the only part of the B stream.
The people
ALGS champs. Dude, how are you doing? And how does it feel?
நல்லா ட்ரையாடா புஷ் பண்ணிட்டு எவரே அவன பக்கத்துல வர மாட்டான்னு தெரிஞ்சனே இதுல வந்துட்டான்
like passion here, like broadcasting Apex Legend and having fun with like all my viewers and like seeing the crowd and the team feels great, man.
I love it. I love it. So we're here at ALGS, right? There's 40 teams.
snap போடவே இல்லடா.
What are your top 3 teams? Favorite teams?
Champion.
Top 3 teams, like you can't see me
போட்டுருக்கேன்டா
wearing this shirt.
இல்லடா glasses மட்டும் தான் காட்டுது.
வேற யாரு காமிச்சேன் நானு?
Exit my boy.
எனக்கு glasses தவிர வரவே இல்ல.
Oh, I love him so much, but still not my best.
சூர்யா காமிச்சிருப்பான்.
Oh, Dark Zero, gotta talk about it. This is like one of my favorite teams, you know, like 3-time LAN champions. Jim Burden, such a nice guy.
அடா எக்ஸெட் கட்டிட்டு டார்க் ஜீரோ ஆயிட்டான்.
Let's go with this.
TSM fan.
TSM, dude. TSM fanboy always, dude. So, nah. This is my favorite alliance. They have been like having a rough day yesterday, right? But I think they're gonna bounce back today.
எவ்வளவுடா வாங்கி வச்சிருக்க இன்னும் உள்ள போட்டுருக்காங்க.
Please reply my Discord message, Yuki, or I'm not gonna root for you. This is my top team.
I love that. I love that. You got to get that sign, number 1. 2, Effect is here now. I don't know if you know that or not. Landed in Birmingham yesterday. Final prediction for who is winning the ALGS championship right here in the UK.
Yeah, I actually like saw like, back in the hotel yesterday. So I think Alliance gonna win.
Alliance
on top. Let's go.
I love that. He's bringing the energy. He's bringing the noise. Thank you so much, Tiffany.
ஆனா இந்த மாதிரி இன்டோர்ல கண்டிப்பா இருக்கும்னு நினைக்கிறேன்.
Thank you so much, peeps and Restia. When he got the first 3 jerseys off, I was like, I think I see more, but I didn't know where that was going. But I love the faith in Alliance, and of course the Fnatic jersey.
Hey, Alliance.
One of the jerseys that I myself was like, I need to go pick that up, and I will. I'll do it tomorrow or today.
I'm gonna say after that, Yuki has to reply to his Discord message.
That too, man. Why
much effort
don't
was
leave
put into
Restia on red. You can't do that. But I mean, obviously Yuki's in the booth. It's a little important right there. Maybe he's replying right now.
Could be. I imagine that they're focusing just a bit on their last game on World's Edge, because it is their last game on World's Edge for this group. And Alliance are a team that I'd expect to have a little bit of an advantage there. Well, they may not be the World's Edge dominant teams that we would see in any other lobby. They're not bad on this map, and they want to set themselves up for a position to take top 5 as we move into Storm Point. They're not quite there yet.
Yeah, and it hasn't necessarily been maybe the toughest rotates coming out of Thermal Station, because that's their typical drop spot, but they haven't had anything pull towards them specifically yet. So hopefully maybe they can get a last little bit of luck here for World's Edge.
Yeah, yes, and also you and I talked about it, but Tree Zone should have gone better for them. And I know that's going to weigh on them, because when you are dropping Thermal, if things go to the south, that is your plan, that's your game. So seeing how they can, I guess, collect themselves moving into the future is going to be the biggest thing. It is a big adjustment. They are dealing with a lot right now, but the audience has faith. Restia, importantly, has faith, so we can't count them out.
Well, you know, I've got a lot of faith, and I saw some out there on the floor. But one thing in particular was that Herman Miller chair that the champions get at the end. Herman Miller Gaming Embody chairs are being used at today's event. Check out the new colorways on Embody Gaming online, the new colors. They have a white base with Galaxy and Amethyst upholstery. Be sure to check out the custom Herman Miller Gaming chairs. Embody chairs created for this year's ALGS Champs winning team. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. It's out there. It's got gold. It's got the emblems that are attached to it. Now, I have an Embody at home, and they are so comfortable. And look at Z right there, just kind of like showing off another one as well. He's just like, yeah, you know, maybe I'll stand. He's super tall anyways. It's fine.
He is really tall. I don't know what it is. I really don't understand it. Like, pros don't need to be that tall. You can keep the same gaming skill compacted, actually, and it'll work just as well. Less effort to move the arm over a smaller space, but I digress. This, for right now, is going to be where everyone's focusing up. That last match of World's Edge, last match of the most storied map in Apex history.
யாராச்சும் சுவிட்ச்ல போய் மேண்டே என்ன பண்றான்னு பாருங்க.
Execute the strategies that you practiced not just in the past year, but over the past 4 or 5 years.
அவங்க தனியா லைவ் போடுவாங்களா?
மேண்டே லைவ் போடலடா இன்னும்.
Competitive level, many of our players have been in the game for just that long. Last match, last legend select of World's Edge is in.
Finally யாரா உள்ள போவாங்க? உங்களோட கெஸ்.
The Watson and Valkyrie, interestingly
energy.
Well, still
இதெல்லாம் கண்டிப்பா உள்ள இருக்கும்.
Dark Zero.
Bloodhound. This has been less of a dominant pick in this particular group matchup. Plenty of people running it. I'm seeing a lot of teams
Green Fire கூட போய்டும்.
Go Bloodhound instead, opting into having Horizon for
இல்ல மச்சான் ஸ்டீம் போலடா அவன்.
Very different from what we were even seeing yesterday. That was such a wild card pick. The macro, the redesign of the ability with the portal, so impressive. But this is it, our final match on World's Edge for our first series. The plane line is going to go straight from northwest to southeast.
இது என்ன பெரிய பிரமாதம். சாம்பியன்ஸ் பாருங்க, சாம்பியன்ஷிப் ஃபைனல்ஸ்.
You know who else is going to benefit from a lot of this? Able to take trials with ease.
அம்மா எல்லாமே ப்ரோவா பைக்கல.
இதுலயே ப்ரோ இதுல தேர்ந்தெடுக்கப்பட்ட ப்ரோ தான்.
Yeah, the ring console is the big difference maker here.
ப்ரோலாம் விட்டுருங்க. அதல கண்டிப்பா சாம்பியன் ஆச்சானா ஃபைனல்ஸ் வின் தெரியுமா?
Last match they got ring console and they were like,
அவ்வளோ கஷ்டப்பட்டு ஆடுவாங்க தெரியுமா? வெரி குட் ப்ரோ. போயிட்டே இருக்கும் ப்ரோ டைம். முடியற வரைக்கும் ஆடிக்கிட்டே இருப்பானுங்க.
ப்ரோ சண்டே மட்டும் அன்லிமிட்டெட் மேட்சஸ் தெரியுமா?
Where the future zones are going, what sort of area will be playing, and we're getting a very different ring this time around, as we'll be moving
first யார் 50 பாயிண்ட் ரீச் பண்ணி அப்புறமா சாம்பியன் அடிக்கறாங்களோ அவங்க தான் சாம்பியன்ஷிப் வின்னர். அது வரைக்கும் போயிட்டே இருக்கும்.
பாத்தீங்க வெஸ்ட்ல வெளியிட்டு போறோம் ஸ்டாப் பண்றாங்க.
ஆம் bro அத நம்மலாம் பண்ணனும் bro. நான் நேத்து தான் கத்துக்கிட்டேன் இவனுக்கு பண்றத.
இவர் பண்ணுவாரு bro. சோலோ ப்ரோ பண்ணுவாரு.
ஓகே
ரிவே பண்ணி போட்டு போடுவாங்க.
இது வரைக்கும் நான் பண்ணது கிடையாது என் வாழ்க்கையில. நான் இனிமேல்ட்டு பண்ணனும்.
எப்படினா நாக்க ரிவே பண்ற சொல்றேன். அது முன்னாடி வெஸ்ட் கழட்டி போட்டு ரிவே பண்ணுவாரு.
And look out for Dark Zero as well. Harvester is a really nice POI in general because you're able to pick up consoles, but this time with Lava Siphon right next door having one, and I believe Staging having picked up a console as well. They should be able to make it.
எங்க ஃபைட் போறா? வெங்கடா. ட்ரீம் ஃபயர் ஃபைட் போறா வெங்கடா.
This is where things started to get interesting. They're landing just the northern buildings of Lava Siphon kind of separated out. They were originally set to go over towards Skyhook, and as rotations come through, Dreamfire, known for their high ground abilities, just able to grab a knock onto Saku, should be able to clean that up fairly easily.
At that point,
போடு அழுத்திட்டாங்க.
you can do
போடு அடுத்த ஷாட்.
shots just keep landing.
ஹீல் பண்றா.
Does have to take a respite. I'm surprised he's still peeking it even. But the rest of his team is continuing to nade, and Dreamfire should be collecting another kill very soon. Has a good angle to smoke. He's going to cover on the way in, and while he doesn't have a digi, closing the gap with an SMG is sure to get Dreamfire another KP.
The passion exuding from him as they grab and knock in a full on to F-Chan. We need one more member of Pulverex, who, like K-Swinny earlier, has already dipped out of dodge, but there is making so much noise so early on.
மச்சான் ஜாலியா இருக்கு மச்சான். ஹேர்லூம பாத்துக்கிட்டே ஓடிக்கிட்டு இருக்கேன்டா நானு.
ஆமாடா அழகா சுத்திட்டே ஓடுவா.
Party connoisseurs themselves making their way towards
Dreamfire. நிறைய பேருக்கு பிடிக்காது ஆனா எனக்கு பிடிக்கும்.
Reset from Dreamfire is perfect just because of the expenditure, that cooldown that gets them into a choke point without having to worry about what North Epson is doing.
இவளுக்குலாம் ரே கலர்லாம் ஓடக்கூடாது. இதான் சமயா இருக்கு.
North Epson are forced to take to the other
ரே கலர்னு விட்டு அணையா ஓடுவாங்க.
Even chase down the last member of Pulverex. Meanwhile, however, the rotation ahead is what's being focused on, especially by Dreamfire.
அவ்வளவுதான் வேற எந்த கேட்டனும் ஆடவும்
A
மாட்டாங்க.
win is largely going to be centered around how well you can play Fragment, Monument, and this game for both.
Well, 100 thieves. You're talking about escaping. You're not going to let
the 11 team la thana fuser ivan irpan.
The first team fully eliminated, but not before Area 310
right
has
irukam paru.
something to say about all of the chaos happening in Monument. We knew there was a ring console. We knew there was information here, and they are just pressuring straight into the building.
It's so much aggression out of Area 310, but they have an advantage. Why not push it even through the smoke? We finally get a little bit of caustic gas laid down, and that's where Area 310 can really feel comfortable. They've got a great position in Monument, and now the setup that Caustic is able to provide should be able to hold on to it, grab a little bit more loot with Loba, make nice micro rotations with Wraith. This is Area 310's game to take control of.
Exactly, I love it.
டமால் டிமின் போட்டா ஓட்டானுங்கடா டார்க் ஜீரோ. ஐயா வாலாமா சண்டை நம்மளுக்கு.
Navigating, trying to loot super quickly, and that's what's fun, right? When we talk about controller versus MNK, sometimes they'll send the MNK player out
push பண்றான். கிராக் யூரோ கிராக்.
அந்த டீம் பொறுமையா ஆடுமா bro? அந்த டீம் பொறுமையா ஆடுமா?
யார் bro ஜீரோவா? ஆமா bro.
Now the nice thing about Fuse is that it's
அவசரப்பட்டுலாம் ஃபைட்டே எடுக்காது, ரிஸ்கே எடுக்காது.
Get offensive value out of running people down with
என்ன வேணா அடிச்சுக்கோங்க, நான் வரவே மாட்டேன் உங்க ஃபைட்ல. நாங்கலாம் அப்பவே அப்படி.
ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணி பண்ண மாட்டாங்க.
சாப்பாடி பண்ணுவானுங்க கரெக்ட்டா
கடைசில வந்து அவனுங்க உள்ள இறங்குனானுங்க காலி ப்ரோ. அவ்வளவுதான் இந்த மாதிரி அவனுங்க. தேர்ட் பார்ட்டில உள்ள இறங்குனானுங்கன்னா அவனுங்க காலி. சரியா? அந்த மாதிரி
அவனுங்க பயங்கரமா பேக் அடிப்பானுங்க ஃபைட்ல இருந்தா.
ஆமா ப்ரோ, மூணு பேருமே எஸ்கேப் ஆவானுங்க ப்ரோ பயங்கரமா.
Talk about swapping the shields around. We're seeing just that. Kashera will elect to have the blue, and he can level his up throughout the utilization of an EMP. And now making that way towards the no-name area. There's likely some sort of beacon here that a couple of teams will look for that information. Guys are kind of mirroring a send movement pattern, but there are still two other teams in the vicinity. Think of who lands Overlook. Think of all of that.
Riddle the team, in fact, that lands over at Overlook, sitting in 19th at the moment. Got to play defensively, or rather that's the mentality that I'm sure they find themselves in. No Name is not a bad place to hold down, but it certainly isn't the most active, and unfortunately for them, they're mirrored by GO once again. We saw these two fight out in over by Landslide, the tunnel previously, just last game in fact, and now that we're seeing them right next door to each other again, it cannot be comfortable for these two squads that played polar opposite games in Split 2 playoffs to once again be face-to-face. In fact, they were even contesting each other for millage in Split 2 playoffs, rather, during qualification into finals. And now that they're at this again, it just makes the game so much more complicated for both.
I remember back when Gio was contesting Landslide as well, and that was just so wild. But you sort of think about it, now we've got that next ring information for some of our teams that are looking to hit the rotation. Element 6 sitting on triple purple, making their way out of the Skyhook area, and Alliance kind of finally beginning to arrive from Purple Station. They made their way over towards Lava Fissure to look for extra information, but the last standing member of Pulverex is still outside the ring, Dia.
Ooh, see how well Pulverex are able to survive, because that's actually probably been the biggest tragedy of these first 3 games. Pulverex have not had a good time, even though they were doing pretty well in scrims. They just haven't had the same success going into the second. Well, Alliance, they got ahead. They managed to find not just a few more meds, but also a delayed rotation that could break through Landslide even more. They got an evac tower as well. Pulverex is sitting behind them going, man, why can't my game be going that well?
I just need a little bit. You hear the evac tower going out, and immediately the shots come in. And from the map view, that is likely from Element 6 towards Alliance, looking to poke and prod, but Gombere, they've got their own issues going forward, still electing to mirror that middle rotation, but now they've made their way up towards Climatizer, and that is FaZe's home lane, so that's where they'll be positioning themselves for that next set of gameplay.
Now, FaZe did not spawn in with a ring console right next to them, and so the way that they're playing this is interesting, but certainly explained by the fact that they don't have next ring data to work with as easily. They had to jump over to Epicenter to grab it, and are planning on doing that likely again. They've sat back in the Macaroni building to take advantage of the teams that are rotating in, and then later be able to grab a little bit more information to make a more perfect decision for zones 5 and beyond.
Little poking, prodding, 1 point. They are going to need every bit of damage, every bit of Evo shield leveling up. But the issue is, we are so low on ammo. They have about 30 bullets for the headlock before we jump on over to Alliance, sitting on triple blue in 16th place with 3 points. So this is another game, but with our point sponges happening at the top, you had LG with 32, Ascend with 31, Complexity with 19. Those were your top 3 coming into the final match on World's Edge. So even after one good game, you just need at least north of 20 points, and you'll be within the top 5.
It's funny that you mentioned the ammunition, because we jump over and in fact just 360.
He always has so
much. Oh my god. Now in the meanwhile, we've got Pulverex, who have managed to recuperate for now. This is a tough place to be, especially with the second round closing in. A lot more damage, and as Graceful was saying yesterday, it's not that you can't pull off these same sort of ring stabilization strategies, but they are a lot more difficult to execute on. It's not going to feel particularly good. FaZe do pick up a kill, which is nice for them. It is on to GO, whose rotation up from No Name evidently has not gone smoothly, but it's also not the end of GO. So full push from FaZe. They're still very much focused on their rotation into Epicenter, their ability to gather more information, and that way lies Riddle Order.
Yeah, and they already have used a Dark Veil. They've coupled it with a couple Bangalore smokes. Snipedown does have one more available at the ready should he need it, but the grab lift going to the high ground, and Frex is already engaging. You hear the black hole in the distance. He's just trying to get into that pocket, find a good angle, and clean up what is able. But what will Riddle Order do about this? There's still teams looking to engage in this once they need to clean it up.
Now they have 2v1 advantage. FaZe thought about pushing for the rest of it. It's just one member left of GO, but they're not going to be able to do too much. Meanwhile, Leica, however, takes down Jen Burton. That's a full thirst on one of the members of Dark Zero, who were sat center monument.
FaZe just biding their time, also trying to keep an eye on what is happening behind them. They know they need to rotate. They have about 40 seconds left before the zone starts to pull them ever so far. Carrying on an aggressive nature here on the other side of Monument. The holding out of the shields will fall down. That's going to be Dark Zero, but Jaguarez able to clutch up, and the defensive Dark Veil to allow them to hit the res, reset, beautifully done.
Especially because they didn't drop shields for Nizzle, which is what you would normally do. As soon as you lose a member, picking up the res, drop your shield so they can pick it up and have a little bit more. You're healing while they're being rezzed, and this time, because that doesn't happen, Dark Veil is the much better option if you want to play this like slow full reset game.
நல்ல விஷயம் இத்தனோண்டு சர்க்கிள்ல 17 ஸ்குவாட் இல்ல கடைசி சர்க்கிள்ல எப்படி சேத்துறவங்க பாருங்க நசிங்கடா அப்படியே ஜாம் நசிங்கறோம்
I know we were talking
லூஸ் மாதிரி அடிச்சு பாருங்கடா புரியுதா எதுக்கு அடிச்சுக்கறோனே தெரியாத மாதிரி அடிச்சு பாருங்கடா வெறுப்பா இருக்குடா
கச்சா புச்சா எவன அடிக்குறாங்களோ தெரியாது
அப்படி அடிச்சு பாருங்கடா இரிட்டேட்டிங்கா இருக்கு நம்பர் பைத்தியம்டா இவனுங்களா இப்படி ஊமதானே சிரிப்பா இருக்கும் உனக்கு எனக்கு என்ன டிஃபரன்ஸ் என்ன சொல்றேன்
கரெக்ட்டா நான் இங்க வந்து உட்கார்ந்து பாக்குறேன் நீ அங்க உட்கார்ந்து ஆடுற அவ்வளவுதான்
I expected them to go up
slightly
worse spot, but one that didn't require them to be in the middle of so many teams. Instead, now they have to fight their way through what we know is LG in the area. So they're sat in this corner, holding on for now, but I would not feel comfortable here as FaZe.
Meanwhile, an entire war was breaking out on the north. Complexity was able to take down Riddle Order, but Xset immediately thirding that, looking to clean up the northern side out of zone. But FaZe, can they keep pushing forward? You were talking about LG Chivas in the area of Monument. Well, now they've positioned themselves up in that center spire, which is going to be so tough to push. LCDF, on the other hand, will likely run into FaZe, and LG will just pepper from above.
வீட்டுக்குள்ள ஒருத்தர் இருக்கான் வீட்டு கீழ ஒருத்தர் மூணு பேர் இருக்கான் என்னடா நடக்குது அவ்வளவு ஒத்துமையாவாடா இருக்கீங்க அடிச்சுக்கிட்டு பெங்களூர் அல்டியை செரிக்க விடுவானுங்க பாருங்க பரிசு ஓபன் சர்க்கிள் வேற அந்த வேற லெவல்ல பூத்தா இருக்க போது ஃபுல்லா கேட்லிஸ்ட் சேவரை கட்டி விளையாடுவாங்க
The pull is going to be absolutely atrocious, but speaking of save, Jinx trying to clutch up. He's got a knock on a phony. That's a full as well. And Sleep, the ability for him alone to clutch up, and he's still up with a gold knockdown, quick reset. LCDF is actually going to be able to clean up the rest of FaZe. So just like that, they will fall. But LCDF, the work is not over for them.
Such an uncomfortable spot, and unfortunate to see FaZe going out like that.
Still got
a few struggles left in Monument. We do have a small bit of actual Monument still left.
And உங்க வீட்டுக்குள்ளே ஒரு ஸ்குவாட் இருக்குது அத விட்டீங்க அரங்க அச்சின்றாங்க
Chivas with a bit of high ground of their own.
இவனுங்க ஓட்டானுங்க பாரு அவனுக்கு வீட்டுக்குள்ள வச்சு வாடா வாடா சோனா வத்தா
Element 6 realize there's nowhere to go where they aren't flanked on both sides.
ஆனா பப்ஸ் இப்படி ஆனா வெறுப்புல ராங்கட் ஆனா அப்படியே
ராங்கட் தான் அப்படியே
doing what they have to do. Dreamfire leaving the comfort of their building with the dark. They go
track up parra.
Exit fun already down, but Pita
மண்டையில வச்சா மச்சான் எல்லாமே தெரியும்ல பாத்தியா
பாத்தா 120
அவ்வளவுதான் மச்சான் போடு
120
மச்சான் செத்துறடா
we just need to connect it.
ரெண்டு பேரும் செத்துறாங்க
Dreamfire regardless is eliminated and knock the glue holding that team together, must play for his life.
Now, with both members now
ரெண்டு பேரும்
down,
செத்துறாங்கடா வாஜி
the smoke wasn't able to save them, and Element 6
பாலா சோள மொத்தம்
could
ஆயே
get
கூட
aggressive.
அப்படினு
After
கூட்டு
Force 36 go down, LCDF out, Element 6 start rotating over to
இவனுங்க வேற
Exit, but Starfire
Toxic gas
already moved up to them where
ஆட்
Dojo fight for
இருக்கானுங்க
their lives in Monument.
Three teams in a
வர்றான்
small
எத்து
vicinity.
காட்றான் பாரு நம்ம
You know
தலைவன்
who survives here.
டீம் ஸ்டாப் பண்ணிட்டான் பாரு நம்ம தலைவன் அவ்வளவுதான் இப்ப
diving into competitive. This was the playground, so I fully expect Dojo to excel here. They've already got a knock onto Jaguares, and Element 6 has been eliminated off the screen, but the reset coming in. Timmy has the bangle, has an L-star, and wants to find success, but North Epson will be that next team that they have to turn their sights to, but Design Pool isn't fully healed, but they're trying to rotate out.
Timmy swapped to Anchor so
Timmy
perfectly
escaped,
there, like instantly, drops back on a bit of cover, lays down fire with the L-star to make sure that his team is safe. That was expertly played, and it's the
தெரியல
only
ப்ரோ
reason,
நானே இப்பதான்
the only
பாக்குறேன்
reason that Dojo can continue in the top 7.
அவன் ஜன்னல்ல இருந்து வால் கிரியேட் பண்ணலாமான்னு பாக்குறான்டா
And time is of the essence. The ring is starting to
போட்டான் பாரு
close, and they are
மச்சான்
not the only ones that
போட்டான்
have
பாரு
to go.
மச்சான்
ஆமா ப்ரோ போட முடியும்
Really
ப்ரோ
going out alongside each other. North Epson do get a wall to
பாத்தீங்களா
separate themselves a little bit more, but in the
இந்த
ring,
மாதிரிலாம்
Blue
பண்ணுவானுங்க
Wings,
நம்மளுக்கு
them in the
புதுசு புதுசா
ring.
சொல்லி
Override
கொடுப்பானுங்க
still alive. Exit the last member, and Starfire still have to make their way in.
But everything to the left of this is fully open. You're just trying to play on the road. Any kind of
Timmy
enemy
team
you
போய்
can
பொசிஷன்
send has
எடுத்துச்சு
been in their
ஆளத்துக்கு கம்பி கட்டி
position
வச்சிருக்காங்க
from at least 10 minutes ago in this match, and being able to fence it up.
அவன்
This is starting to
ஓபன்ல
look
இருக்கானா
like
கீழ
the
இருக்கான்
first
கீழ
match
இருக்கான்
where they won. You can see the
அலைன்ஸ்
Dojo
அலைன்ஸ்
rotating
ஃபிளாஷ்
around
அடிச்சானுங்கடா
Hackett, still
இவனுங்க
a core alliance, as well as Yuki and Effect trying their best. Grab lift
ஐயோ
to the
டீம்
sky.
மாட்டிடுச்சு டீம் மாட்டிடுச்சு
In between, threading the needle of the two dark veils, does get poked and prodded, but everything is connecting. You see the damage going out, and it's right in the air.
Everybody trying to get airborne, but the gravity lift
Oh,
finally
sorry,
expires. Effect goes down. Yuki's going to follow. An alliance on the ropes. Have Dojo pushing up on them. This is going to be the end of the alliance. Dojo could take
ஒரே
them
ஒரு
out.
ஆள் தான்
Start a fight, fall, and Hack is last alive. You can see that it's going to be Effect stepping back in his chair. He knows he's full and must rely on Hackis to make something
Timmy
happen. But it
நினைக்கிறேன்
is Ascend. It
Timmy
is
squad full-ஆ தான்
Dojo and
இருக்காங்க.
Hackis last standing for the
Hackis
final
escape.
three. And Timmy up in the rocks, but Ascend is so healthy. They already have a knock-on enemy, a knock-on design, and now we push to cover the distance.
It's just a matter of finishing
Timmy,
the
Timmy,
job.
1
We've
HP,
seen them
Timmy.
do it
Timmy, 1 HP,
before.
செத்துறடா.
And a little bit of sandwiching coming in. The last member of Alliance helping push the Dojo out. Getting
Dojo
a bit
outரா.
of revenge for what happened earlier. Ascend
திருப்பி
are set
அசண்ட்
to
ஜெயிச்சிரோன்னு
mark their
நினைக்கிறேன்டா
second victory
அசண்ட்டா
on World's
சாம்பியன்
Edge, and it just falls into their laps. What a call from
அவன் பண்ணது எனக்கு வேற மாதிரி இருந்துச்சுடா
to get them
எரிச்சலா
their
இருந்தடா
second win in 3 matches.
That is so impressive. What a turnaround.
அத மட்டும் பண்ணா பாத்தியா நக்கலா ஒண்ணு
சூடாதான்
வாங்கடா
வந்தியா
Circles when they
சூடாதான்
start
வந்தியா
to
அந்த
pull
இதுவா
out west of Monument tend to be
அதான் அம்பு விட்டு
incredibly
இருக்கறான்டா
difficult because of the congestion that happens in
யார்
Monument.
both
And
use
for all the
பண்ணுதாங்க
teams on the eastern side of World's Edge that have to go straight
தெரியலடா
into that funnel. But
எவனோ
Ascend,
both
they're
use
like, we're not
பண்ணிருப்பான்
even going to go into Monument. We're going to position ourselves under the road with the Watson fences, and yet again, Postco coming
ஏய் அசண்ட் இந்த மாதிரி தானே ஜெயிக்கிறானுங்க
We talked about it earlier.
எப்படிடா அப்படியே ஃபுல் ஸ்குவாட் இருக்குடா அவனுக்கு ஜெயிக்கும் போது
What that means,
அவன் மண்டையில ரெட் ஆயிடுச்சு பாத்தியா
positionally, they're so different from any other team in the lobby. Nobody else could
Like,
take
Ascend
that
what they-
position. Nobody else could dream of holding that position without incurring so much more
Yeah, bro.
risk than Ascend were
சொல்லுங்க.
ever exposed to. Because they're running
ஆமா
once in
bro
crypto, they're
ஆனா அந்த மாதிரி
able to
அதிகமா
get
போட்டு
away with
ஆடக்கூடாதா
plays
ப்ரோ
like that
ஹெட்ஃபோன்ஸ்
that put them in game-winning
மண்ட
positions
ஷேப்பே
that
மாறிடுமா
nobody else can hold.
You can see smiles all around, everything they needed to do. When Postkill told me he was
Bro.
nervous yesterday, it does not
ரெண்டாவது
even
சாம்பியன்
look
ப்ரோ
the
இவனுங்க
slightest bit of it. They have
தொடர்ந்து.
shaken the nerves, they have locked
தொடர்ந்து.
it in, and with the first 3 matches of the day on board, they take 2 of them.
அடுத்து ஒன்று
And
போடுவாங்க
really importantly,
ஓய் 3 மேட்ச்ல ரெண்டு
positioning is what we're focusing on.
திரும்பி திரும்பி எனக்கு அந்த வீடியோ பாக்குற மச்சான் பாக்கும்போது எனக்கு அந்த ரைட்டோட ஃபீலிங் எப்படி இருக்கும்னு யோசிச்சுட்டு இருக்கேன்டா
Great to pick up KP, but importantly in Apex Legends,
சத்தியமால செம்ம வெறுப்பாயிட்டு இருப்பான்ல அவன் அதுவும் அவனை ரிவைவ் விட்டுட்டு பொறுமையா அடிச்சான் அவனை ஏஞ்சதுக்கு அப்புறம் தெரியுமா
do in the last round when they were able to pick up a win by landslide.
பண்ணக்கூடாது
50-50. Do they come out on top against complexity? Just 100 health separating them.
Content எடுக்கறான்னு பண்ணா
Like that. It's what's giving them this consistency.
இல்ல எனக்கு என்னன்னா இவன் நம்ம இவன் இருக்கான் பாருங்க இந்த லைஃப் லைனே ஒன்னு ஸ்பீ ஷீல்ட் அவுட் இருந்துதான் இதுலயே தான் அடிச்சிருப்பா லைஃப் லைனே ஏன்னா அவனே ஒரு பாட் அவனுக்கு அடிக்க தெரியாம அடிச்சிருந்தான்.
It's not just that you're getting a lot of points, which is important, but you're preparing for match point finals.
Ooh, and that's where consistency really matters. Your ability to get as many points as possible to get to that 50-point threshold, and then you just need a match win. But I'm curious to hear what our desk has to say about Ascend's 2 match wins as well as North Eption. Take it away, Rain.
Thank you so much, Tiff. Terrible. That's all I have to say. I'm just kidding. Good job, Ascend and everyone else in this group, because we have seen some lightning fast finishes and also some very congested and contested final circles, which have made things very interesting after 3. We'll see what happens as we switch maps in just a moment. But here with our halftime break, we are going to get into it. And of course, I'm joined by Genome, Zephyr, and Bullet. Exciting to talk to you guys and get your thoughts on what we've seen so far after 3. But I do want to start off with you, Bullet, and kind of give us your perspective coming in, having that pro background, and also looking at this final circle of how things developed for Ascend not to get their first, but their second win overall after 3.
போட்டோ பார்த்ததுக்கு கியூட்டா இருக்கு.
போட்டோ விடு அன்னைக்கு நேர்ல வீடியோ கால் பார்த்தேன் வீடியோ கால் கியூட்டா தான் இருக்காரு.
தெரியாம கிளிக் பண்ணிட்டேன். தவறி பண்ணிட்டு.
ஏண்டா நீ தனியா வேலை பாக்குறேன்னு நான் ஏதோ தெரியாம பண்ணி விட்டா அதையும் பார்த்துட்டியா?
என்னங்க சொல்றீங்க?
அவர் எங்கேயோ போயிட்டாரு.
அதான் அவன் செகண்ட் ஸ்கிரீன்ல எப்பவுமே டிஸ்கார்ட் ஓடிட்டு தான் இருக்கும். அது நீங்க மறந்துட்டீங்க.
தெரியாம கிளிக் பண்ணிட்டேன் bro. ஸ்கிரீன் ஷேர் பண்றது இல்ல.
ஆக்சுவலா இவன் சொல்ற வரைக்கும் எனக்கு தெரியாது. நான் நாங்க இப்படி பேசிட்டு பாத்துக்கிட்டு இருக்கோம்.
And they just had the scans going through that, and they were just doing damage, putting pressure.
And one of the biggest threats, I would say, to the Watson playstyle is other cryptos, but they're kind of the only team running that crypto at the moment, right? So they don't have to worry about that so much. They can have those fences up there and not worry about their entire defensive perimeter just getting taken down in one swift blow at the end of that. So,
right
now that is completely accelerated in a pace of pure aggression. Something like that. Those primed endgames. No one can touch it, whether it be ordnance or the assault that you just have to push forward through. Ascend are allowed free reign and the potential to pick and choose where they set themselves up.
That passivity ends up being one of their biggest strengths, especially in this type of lobby where not everyone is being passive, and so you have that to kind of lean on as almost your light in the dark to speak of how to play this zone when other teams are maybe scrambling a little bit of trying to find that space to hold and play from as well. One thing I'm curious about though is if we're going to see that end up challenging Ascend like it did in previous playoff situations where passivity is no longer enough. You have to actually be aggressive, and I think Dark Zero, TSM still in my eyes are the kings of being able to see a moment, know that there's a chance for you to win, but then impact the game in a way that's a little bit different,
Yeah, I mean, it feels like in a little bit of difference to some of the other group stage play we've seen. They are ramping up very here. They are a team who can be aggressive, but they know when to pick and choose their moments, right? And we saw it in the split
ஒண்ணுல வரேன் ஒரே ஒரு ஆர்டர் மட்டும் பிளேஸ் பண்ணிருக்கேன் வந்தறேன்
really feeling it to be aggressive
இல்ல
in the finals.
நான் மேட்சே பாத்துக்கிறேன்டா உட்றடா.
Ready for that kind of play style right from the start.
Questions about Ascend. The lobby is again. We head into the standings in our halftime recap presented by PlayStation Tournaments. Let's take us through what has happened after 3. Ascend obviously coming off the back of a nice win, their second overall. Alliance getting some rhythm.
சொல்லியாச்சு அன்னைக்கு ஏதோ ஒரு வாட்டி சொன்னாது தூங்குனாரு அதுக்கப்புறம் காணோம்.
20 to 28 second to 7th in this lobby is actually but on the backside whether it's this game or whether in general you look at teams like FaZe haven't showed up the way that we might have expected, and that's probably the contest that they're experiencing.
live எல்லாம் போட்டாருடா.
Still something that they need to solve, and we've seen other teams solve the test a little bit better than this so far, so maybe a legend change, we'll find out. As it stands here after 3, it is a 4 points wide away. Mia showing up really nice to
bro?
I couldn't be more happy, especially after our start yesterday. We would send down in the dumps, really trying to see how they could find their way to exude the playstyle that makes them sort of more passive in this current meta. The fact that we see them now with double wins on the day of a fantastic kill line as well. They're at 25, almost
நம்ம வாயில போட்டதுக்கா
வாயில போட்டோம் they're slow at all. I mean, look at this too on the
வாயில போட்டதுக்கு காப்பிரைட்ஸ் கொடுத்தா நம்ம அப்புறம் எல்லாரும் பொத்தின பார்க்கணும்
அந்த பாட்டுக்கு வராதுங்கற
especially when you consider that it just takes one big game
அந்த பாட்டு யூஸ்
probably to boost you into a position where you're in a top 5 whether you have a bad game or not as long as you play pretty
ஏங்க சிவா ப்ரோ இச்சி நேத்து டெஸ்ட் பண்ணா வந்துருச்சு
இவர் பாட்டு போட்டுட்டாரு
ப்ரோ உங்களுக்கு வீக்கெண்ட் பிடிக்குமா ப்ரோ நல்லா வீக்கெண்ட் கண்டிப்பா
கேட்டிருக்கேன் ப்ரோ பாட்டு பிடிக்கும்
வேற லெவல் ப்ரோ அவன மாதிரி தான் ப்ரோ அவனோட வாழ்க்கையில நடக்கிறது எல்லாத்தையுமே வந்துட்டு பாட்டா போட்டுருவான் ப்ரோ
to take that high ground. But yeah, Dojo pulling up, doing damage, taking out effect. That was such a nice showing from them. You know, I was talking to design yesterday. Mix up with they're gone crazy. So
it does show what a big difference it can make if you're not contesting. That's probably the big difference between what we're seeing from Dojo today.
பக்கத்து டீம் காம்ப்ளெக்ஸ்
Just freezing that early game allows them to focus on people's rotations. You've got those early contests.
bro முடிச்சிட்டேன் அதான் வரேன்
Always you know, have that movement around the map. You can't schedule it in quite as well as you can.
bro நீங்க சாப்பிட போறீங்களா அதான் சாப்பிட போறாங்க போவாத இந்த கேம் ஆடியா கூட அப்படி சொல்ல முடியும் ஒரு வாயில முடிச்சிருவீங்களா என்ன சொல்றீங்க
ஒரு வாயில முடிச்சிருவீங்களா
tripling your score like that. I mean, so far so good, but they didn't start well, and that's the thing. Open the question and conversation to you guys. How do you feel about this? Is this really some, you know, kind of a performance that they can suffer essentially position that they are maybe one of those teams that has still a little bit to prove despite really performing well at Split 2. I mean, they are an excellent team, a lot of experience. I might have expected them to come out a little stronger today.
I think finding their footing has been a struggle here, at least for the last 2 days, and seeing how they can finally adapt to this meta is something that is still yet answered, but we know this roster is star-studded. They have that experience. We talked a lot about veterans when we discussed our day one. This roster has, if there's anyone who can figure out, it has to be them. I also want to talk about Dreamfire because they played well. They haven't been the same Dreamfire of yesterday. And I don't know if this is, I mean, was yesterday more of an anomaly and now we're seeing Dreamfire?
Yeah, no, I don't think it's certainly not a surprise, but maybe he's actually sort of the Dreamfire that we know and love in South, right? The kind of team that does just see the role of Lobby at his comfort zone, honestly. And I feel like over the past year or so,
நான் தூங்குவேன் செய்வேன் நான் தூங்க மாட்டேன்
I think it's made them a more well-rounded team.
நாங்க சொன்னோம் bro ஒரு வாட்டி பண்ணாரு bro அதுக்கு அப்புறம் தெரிஞ்சு தூங்கல bro
put you down before you even know what's happening.
That's the fun about these groups. Sometimes you get that lobby that allows you the space to do that. And sometimes you're a little bit more congested early game, and so you've got to work on the stuff that might be your sore points to be able to get to the position where you can actually
தர முடியாது
சொல்லுங்க bro
ஒரு வாய்ஸ் கேட்டீங்க செல்ல டைம் கேட பேசுவாங்க
கேட்றீங்க bro கேட்றீங்க bro
Will Dreamfire continue to put on the star-studded performance that we've seen? Will start a fight, find their way, climbing the ranks and representing South America. Will FaZe rise up, or will Sin continue staying at the top of the mountain? We'll find out after this.
வில்லோட காட்றான் bro உங்களுக்கு
வின் பண்ணிட்டான் bro அவன்
bro 3 மேட்ச்ல 2 சாம்பியன் bro
பெரிய விஷயம் bro அதெல்லாம் இந்த இடத்துல ரொம்ப பெரிய விஷயம் bro அது ஏனா அவ்வளவு பெரிய டீம்ஸ் எல்லாமே
கண்டிப்பா bro
நம்மலாம் போய் ஒரு சாம்பியன் பண்ணாலே நம்ம கூத்து வேற கூத்தா இருக்கும்
இத கொஸ்டின் கேட்டிருக்காங்க நீங்க ஆன்சர் பண்ற மாதிரி இல்ல ஆப்ஷன் சிவா bro
என்னது bro
இந்த क्वेश्चन கேட்டிருக்காங்க பாருங்க அதுக்கு நம்ம ஆன்சர் பண்ற மாதிரி இல்ல
நீங்க கெஸ் பண்ணி வெச்சுக்கோங்க அந்த கொஞ்ச நேரம் கழிச்சு அவங்களே வந்து ஆன்சர் சொல்றாங்க.
இல்ல நம்ம அப்ளை பண்ற மாதிரி இல்ல, அப்படி கூட நல்லா இருக்கும். கொஞ்சம் என்டர்டெய்னிங்
இல்ல நீங்க ட்விட்ச் சாட்ல போடலாம் சும்மா.
எதுக்குங்க? நான் இந்த பிரால் ஸ்டார் கேம் இருக்குல ப்ரோ, அதுல இ ஸ்போர்ட்ஸ் போகும்போது அவங்க கொஸ்டின் கேட்பாங்க, அதுக்கு ஆன்சர் பண்ணீங்கன்னா உங்களுக்கு ரிவார்ட்ஸ்.
பிரால் ஸ்டார் இ ஸ்போர்ட்ஸ் இருக்கா ப்ரோ?
ஆமா ப்ரோ.
ஆமா ப்ரோ. இல்லங்க அந்த கேம் பார்த்தா எனக்கு அந்த மாதிரி இருந்துச்சு. தப்பா எனக்கு
ஆடல, அதான் உங்களுக்கு புரியல. ஆண்ட பாருங்க, கஷ்டம் அந்த கேம். ஒன்னில இன்ஸ்டால் பண்ண 2 மேட்ச் விளையாடாதீங்களா?
ஓ என்கிட்ட போன் இல்ல ப்ரோ, இருந்துச்சுன்னா வந்திருப்போம் ப்ரோ, அது போயிடுச்சு.
Welcome back everybody to the ALGS
Champs
BNC, finishing off on World's
Redmi da bro இருக்கு, Redmi 9 தான் இருக்கு.
2 games
சும்மா
over
ஆன்சர்ஸ்க்கு பேமெண்ட்க்கு தான்
plus the dub on top of it. Now we're transcending into Storm Point. Can they continue that domination glitter? So far, the stats are looking a little against them, but I like to see other teams. Needing to have a
அவர் நல்லா ஆடுவாரா, கூப்பிட்டு வச்சு அழிக்கணும்னு பாக்குறாரு.
இல்ல அவர் டீமா தான், அவரு கூட தான் டீமா ஆட போறேன் நானு. அவர் டீமா தான் ஆட முடியாது. நீ ஏப்ளக்ஸ்ல செய்யற வா நான் பிராஸ்டார்ல செய்யறடா அப்படின்ற மாதிரி வச்சிருக்காரு.
இல்ல ப்ரோ அந்த போன் போயிடுச்சு ப்ரோ, கேமிங் போன் தான் அதுவும். அது டிஸ்ப்ளே போயிடுச்சு, மாத்தணும்னா ஒரு இன்னும் ஒரு 12K வைக்கணும்.
A 4th place finish.
So game bomba mala irukku,
கொஞ்சம் இன்ட்ரஸ்டா இருக்கு.
தெரியும் ப்ரோ, நான் ஆடி
கிளாஸ் ரைட்ல அளவுக்கு இருக்காது. கிளாஸ் ரைட்ல வந்து ரெண்டு பேரும் அடிக்கலாம். டிஃபரெண்டா இருக்கும்.
Some of the other squads you mentioned had a little bit more point differential as far as
where they're getting those points from. Strong point புயல்ல இருக்குன்னு சொன்னாங்க. அழகா இருக்குது.
பப்ஜிக்கு அப்புறம் பிடிச்ச மேட்ச். பிடிச்ச கேம்.
When I think about this
team, மொபைல்ல அதிகமா ஆடுறது பப்ஜி மட்டும்தான்.
Last split alone, we saw them finish with a 20+ point difference.
College கட்டச்சலாம் ஆடுவோம்.
School cut பண்ணி number 2. You guys could see
school cut பண்ணி ஆடுவீங்களா? நீங்க தான் வேணும். ராஜே நம்மலாம் வேஸ்ட்.
The difference from what we did from World Edge into Storm Point
or ஸ்கூலே கட்டஸ்ட் ஆடி இருக்கீங்க.
Going into Storm Point, or there's teams like Ascent that may struggle composition on World Edge into Storm Point, and the stats are against them, unfortunately. Maybe having some adjustments going into this challenge.
And we did see from those drop spots as well that it looks like we're only going to have one test right now between Pulverex and North Eption up there at Thunderwatch. So it should be exciting to see how things play out here. First Storm Point match of the day, match number 4 coming your way as our teams are in the drop ship and things are getting started.
ஒர்க் முடிஞ்சோட மொபைல்ல அந்த கேம் ஏத்துங்க ப்ரோ.
ஓகே ஷூர், கண்டிப்பா.
ரெண்டு மேட்ச் ஆடலாம்.
கண்டிப்பா.
Sniper stock as well. Dropping from the ship, we get to take a look at North Eption.
அந்த அளவுக்கு பிளேயர் கிடையாது ப்ரோ, ஆடுவாங்க.
Game number 2 with 5K.
சொல்லி கொடுங்க ப்ரோ, நான் ஆடுவேன்.
ஏய் அவர் கிளட்ச் எல்லாம் பண்ணிருக்காரா? சும்மா நம்ம இத கலந்து
14 bullets, 9 in the reserve right now, and Epchan already.
வீடியோல அத ஒரு 2-3 மேட்ச் நல்லா நீங்களே போடுவீங்களா ப்ரோ? இந்த மேட்ச் நல்லா இருக்கு, அந்த மேட்ச் போடுவீங்க.
ஏய் ஆரம்பம் ஃபைட் அலைஜா.
ஸ்டார்டிங் ஃபைட் இருக்காங்க.
இந்த பண்ணி பசங்க.
The clutch coming out of Pulverex.
நான் பாத்தியா நின்னுட்டே லூட் கண்ட்ரோலர் அவன்.
E6 struggling a little bit where they wanted to land originally, trying to find the contention versus Pulverex and failing. Our first team to go down in this game for our first time on right now.
கீழ எப்படிங்க பழகுனீங்க கண்ட்ரோலர்?
Their support over here. The smiles as well from Epchan.
But that's actually a move from Pulverex. So they were originally supposed to be up with North Epchan at Thunderwatch. They went down towards E6 and Jurassic, and now they ended up really successful where they end up staying.
And let's talk about why we saw
Magic la ஆடுவான் bro.
Actually opted to land
Magic
want to take the 50
இல்ல இல்ல la ஆடுவான்.
Instead Pulverex said, "We'll take the fight to you," and now they not only get to loot that bolt, but also the rest of Jurassic Park and
three finger la கிடையாது. எல்லா finger
we get
யூஸ்
to take a
பண்ணுவாங்க.
look at where the circle is going to be pulled. So that's going to be nice too, because 100 is being right alongside Pulverex in their own POI. They have started again. They have a crafter, and they've already called
அவங்க விளையாடுறது நீங்க நேர்ல பார்க்கணும், கேம் பிளேல பார்க்க கூடாது.
super safe for the next 2 rings. They're not going to have to do a whole lot. 100 Thieves making a little bit of movement.
நான் இப்ப ரைட் எனிமி மூவ் ஆறானா நம்ம டீம் நம்ம இப்ப பெங்களூர் ரைட் மூவ் ஆறனா நான் ரைட் மூவ் ஆவேன் லெஃப்ட் மூவ் ஆறனா நான் லெஃப்ட் மூவ் ஆவேன் புல்லட் அப்படியே நம்ம குனிஞ்சிட்டே போறோம்னா குனிஞ்சிட்டே நான்
எங்கால விஆர் மோட்ல ஆடுவேன்
கைரோல அதோ அடி போடுவீங்க
Wondering how that's going to play out, considering the fact that
VR mode ஆடுவாங்க எங்கால
so their goal is to try to play for that positioning. Northampton also getting involved in this fight with that similar rotation.
Another team that I want to see how they play this is LG, because they want to play really conservative when they played in their favor. They went straight to that building, held that for as long as possible, ended up in a top 3 scenario, and it did really well for them.
நீங்க சென்னையில இருந்தா இன்னும் நல்லா இருக்கும்.
Now they've got another zone they can rotate into very easily based off of their drop, and I'm interested to see.
பேசாம காலேஜ் சென்னைக்கு மாத்திரீங்களா?
அவர்தான் பிஜி ப்ரோ பிஜி பண்ணுவீங்கல பிஜி வந்து சென்னைக்கு வந்துருங்க
all these teams have already upgraded on the side because in this no-name spot sometimes we see
இன்னும் ஒரு ரெண்டு ஆர்டர் போட்டனா நீங்க இன்னையோட வேலை முடிஞ்சிரும் போங்கடா பசங்கட்ட பையலுங்களா அப்படின்றாங்க
100 thieves space
bro meeting மட்டும் போயிட்டு வரோம் bro
but sometimes it pulls away from
போய்டுவான் bro அவன் வரமாட்டான் bro
fights happening from underneath where you see other teams sharing up from the low ground but then they're exposed
bro இது ஸ்டாம் பாயிண்ட் bro இது சூப்பரா இருக்கும் bro இந்த மேப்
எனக்கு பிடிச்ச மேப்
எனக்கு இது ரொம்ப பிடிக்கும் இந்த மேப்
லாண்டருக்கு ஒரே ஒரு ரெண்டு மேட்ச் தான் லாண்டருக்கு
நான் இந்த மேப் அதான் bro ஸ்டார்டிங் நீங்க ஓரியன்டேஷன் முடிச்சதுக்கு அப்புறம் எங்க கூட வந்த மேப் இதுதான் இந்த அது வந்து கேஸ்கேட் ஃபால்ஸ்னு ஒரு இடம் இருக்கும் bro அதுதான் bro எனக்கு ரொம்ப பிடிக்கும்
to take your eyes on the very beginning all right
இதெல்லாம் டீ மாதிரி இருக்கும் bro இந்த இதெல்லாம் இவங்க மட்டும் தான் பிடிக்கும்
ஏய் சீரியஸா நல்லா யோசிச்சு பாரு இந்த மேட்ச் இந்த மேப் இருக்கும்போது நான் நல்லா ஆடுவேன் எனக்கு தெரியும் இந்த மேப் எனக்கு ரொம்ப ஜாலியா இருக்கும் இந்த மேப்
where that circle is going to be pulling
so அலக்கு இருக்காடா ஜாலியா
என்னடா ஒரே ஜிப் லைன்ல இத்தனை பேர் ஏறானுங்க எப்போ ஏண்டா அது எனிமி ஜிப் லைன்டா சிவா ஏய் பெங்களூர் ஸ்கின்ரா இது வந்துச்சு மச்சான் நான் தான் வாங்குறடா ஞாபகம் இருக்கா ரன்னிங்ல நாக் வைக்கறானா அவ்வளவுதான் இங்க இருக்கிற லாபியே அப்படியே சதறிடும்ல இப்ப
பயங்கரமா வருவானுங்க
needing to heal up just a bit as they at least get a safe corner for now, but there's a potential push coming out.
Gets the information on the teams that are trying to take height on that rock. Bang smokes ain't gonna help you out here when the Beast of the Hunt is activated by Saduki. See the catwall also coming on. Forced to use that so that way they can rotate from the back end of this POI, but where can they rotate? If they want to try to take height and wrap around, it's going to take too long, especially with how many teams are already on their way to that circle exiting out of Stormcatcher. Looking to try to take this fight with the 30-30 shots.
Repeater shot அடிக்குறான்டா அவன்.
Catches a knock at the side up. Lasiter Fonz after their rotation from the skies immediately gets sent back to the lobby by Northampton. We're on a terror right now. Let's not ignore the fact that they took game number 2 and now they have a good amount of KP to work with here.
And that was a little bit of a rough rotate for Lasita France. Obviously, a lot of these teams figuring out where the next zone is going to be shifting, trying to nail down whatever real estate they can, but a lot of it's going to be taken up by those mountains that are in the area. So there's only so much playable space. Lasita France didn't have as much time to even really work with where they were landing, and North Epsom wants to make sure that they can clear out the space around. They have that edge pretty much to themselves now, with the exception of any of those teams that are rotating in a little bit later that had those farther away drops towards the north that they can now at least switch their focus to and have uninterrupted attention on that.
It's a really good point, especially if you take a look at the compositions that we've been exposed to. Catalyst has a pick rate of 82.50% thus far after the action that we saw yesterday and continue on today. That's why Dojo are also making a comeback after the performance. Now starting off incredibly strong. Gonna be able to hold. Nice Hemi stats too that we see. He's got the purple extended heavy mag. They all have full purples, but so does the team. No, it's going to be Riddle Order. And it's also the fight for the ring you have to consider. Both of these teams want information on where the circle is going to be pulling, and that's why this fight is going to ensure.
That is a great point. All right, we've got Beast up for Riddle Order, trying to see if they can get some information, make an aggressive push up here onto the roof, going up against Dojo. They get a really solid off angle out of one Tappy, getting a nice shield crack in there, and now Dojo might be on the back. Tappy backing away. He had used already the Beast of the Hunt earlier on too, so jumping down from the height for right now. Riddle Order taking split position, but with the Digi threat in the hands of Yukio, they get the trade-off. Enemy onto one Tappy, Yukio onto Designful. The comps are coming through, so are the pings.
McKay in some trouble too, gets knocked. Yukio's the only one alive, but it's not gonna be enough as Timmy is on the other side with the Hemi that we mentioned. Enemy is gonna be able to get the res onto Design, and the reset comes in for Dojo. Now they get the extra loot at their feet, basically walking care packages on top of the fact that they have the rain console. Start a fight also in a lot of trouble.
Timmy's been doing a really good job with those clutches, but now SAF down to 2 as they're trying to mitigate whatever incoming damage. That catwall does go down, hopefully kind of blocking off the squad right now. He's got Exit in the area. Nice Kraber shot coming out of Nocturnal. That's got to feel good.
Puts up the catwall specifically to block out the sight of the Kraber. Oh man, that must have been the first shot that Nocturnal taken through at least the cracks of that window right there, because they ain't gonna know, but now they know. And especially with that catwall just to block up some sites, you can see the fighting continue on in the south buildings right here, right in front of Exit. Nocturnal could easily just hold the high ground on that building alongside Fun and still add in some extra pressure, but it's conserving some of those bullets depending on how they want to approach that circle too. Dreamfire trying to push into the Bangalore City. 3-2-1 comes in from the other side. 3MZ gets taken out. They lose out on double shields, and Dreamfire is the team that's going to be hanging out on the high ground here with the squad moving in from the bottom. So the crypto drone, that could be a set now getting involved in this fight.
So much chaos in this area right now. You've got Dreamfire down to 2, but there's still SAF. There's still Alright, the push being made up in the Dreamfire. That was the perfect time for SAF to do it because they knew that they had the advantage there with them being down to 2. Now they're going to have to no one's now turning It was in the moment. Exit also having backed off just a little bit. There was a moment where I think DZ was potentially looking for a third party. They kind of moved over, wanted to scope out the situation, but things have calmed down for now.
I do really like this position from Exit because depending on where the circle falls, if it doesn't end up committing to that south side that we saw Dong Yong actually rotate early on alongside with 100 Thieves, and it continues to move towards these buildings instead. Exit is not in as bad as a position when it comes to a 50-50 on their rotate. They can try to take either the choke to the north if it does pull more to the south and there's too many teams there, or they can
நான் லைவ்லாம் பார்க்க மாட்டேன் ப்ரோ. நான் லைவ்லாம் பார்க்க மாட்டேன். அப்பலாம் ஸ்டார்டிங் ஸ்டேஜ்லாம் ஓகேவா? நக்கலா பண்ணுவேன். இவங்க எல்லாம் பார்த்துட்டு இருப்பாங்க. நான் பெருசா பண்ணுவாங்கன்னு பார்த்துட்டு நான் பண்ணவே மாட்டேன். அப்புறம் ஒரு நாள் சும்மா உட்கார்ந்து பார்த்தேன். எல்லாமே பார்க்கறோமே இத பார்த்துட்டு போவோம் அப்படினு சொல்லிட்டு பார்த்தேன். அடிக்ட் ஆயிட்டேன். எப்படா அடுத்து வரும் ஆனா அவனுக்கு கிட்ட நிறைய கத்துக்கிட்டோம் ப்ரோ. போன சீசன் மேட்ச்ல ஒருத்தன் ஒரு சோலோ பெங்களூர் மாட்டினான் ப்ரோ. அவன் ஒரு கேம் பிளே காமிச்சான் எங்களுக்கு. சரியா? எப்படிப்பட்ட கேம் பிளேனா கடைசில வந்து அத்தனை டீம் அடிச்சிடுச்சு. அவங்களுக்கு பிளேஸ்மென்ட் பாயிண்ட் தான் முக்கியம்னு சொல்லிட்டு பிளேஸ்மென்ட் பாயிண்ட் தான் முக்கியம்னு சொல்லிட்டு கடைசி ஜோன்ல குட்டி ஜோன்ல ஈவாக் டவரை போட்டு மேல பறந்துட்டான் ப்ரோ. அவன் மேல பறக்குற டைம்ல ஒரு டீம் அவுட் ஆயிடுச்சு. இவன் டாப் 3ல வந்துட்டான். புரியுதா? பிளேஸ்மென்ட் பாயிண்டிங் வந்துச்சு அவனுக்கு. அப்படியே அந்த டீமுக்கு. சிவா ஞாபகம் இருக்கா?
ஆப்டிக்
ஜிப்லைன்ல போய்ட்டா அவன் ரெண்டு டீம் ஃபைட் எடுத்து ஒரு டீம் முடிச்சிட்டு
Northeast.
ஆமா ப்ரோ. அதே அந்த ஜோனியா சுத்தனா அவன் லெவல்ல பண்ணானுங்க அவங்கள.
சூப்பர் பண்ணது பாத்தீங்களா? அவன் டீம் கதவு லைட்டா ஓபன் பண்ணிட்டு கரெக்ட்டா ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணிட்டான் பாத்தீங்களா? கிரேபர் வச்சு.
I watched the tournament since season 5. வேற மாதிரி ப்ரோ. இப்பதான் தெரிஞ்சு ப்ரோ நீ இப்படி ஆடுறது.
Yeah, dude.
எங்கள விட சீனியர் போலயே. ஓகே டோர்னமென்ட் பாத்துறீங்க.
அதான் ப்ரோ வேற லெவல்ல பாத்துறீங்க.
Is having as much fun as the crowd is right now waiting for those Kraber shots.
Code 199.
Knock has
Kraber shot.
Ripping shields off of people. I thought he's about to get a haircut, I'm not gonna lie.
I feel like he saw it and then said never mind, then tipped from underneath the rock. He was about to get domed right there. Holding back the patience from Nocturnal, and I just love the comms too. They were looking at Gambare originally.
Kraber தான் எடுக்கிறதுல ஒரு வித்தியாசமான ஸ்னைப்பர்.
You know what? That Newcastle's in there. That's young by the way. Who's now made that rotation alongside the rest of the squad to the south side of the circle, trying to attack the edge side. Close to Dark Zero by Jurassic Park. SUS also there by Jurassic Park. It's Dojo, and they're actually approaching Gambare and Dark Zero at the same time. Good position for a third party here. Dark Zero are engaging here. Zul also the lead engaged the fight. And 16 squads left as Zainu using the tree for some natural cover, but they've used up the catwall. Is it worth it here with 2 other teams in this area?
Like you said, this could be a huge opportunity for Dojo to take out heavy hitters in this lobby. Dark Zero realizing that it might be a little bit safe to play back just a bit behind this wall. Yeah, they are about to make sure, especially Jen going down with the smoke launcher. Come on.
No way. It was literally one. The smoke launcher is just enough to take down Jen. And this is the third party that we were waiting for. Dojo taking you back to the dojo. It's time to get some training in because Disciple's got some hands. Geo get eliminated in this confrontation. 15 squads left now. Catwalk going up as Dojo now want to fully send it on to Dark Zero. Nocturnal then finally gets the Kraber shot. Takes down Lemon. And this is going to be the Dojo versus Dark Zero fight.
This is the perfect play out of the dojo.
Kevin bro, வந்துட்டு live ல ஒரு கேட்டிருக்காரு. Bro நீங்க Brawl Stars ஆடுவீங்களான்னு கேட்டிருக்காரு. ஞாபகம் இருக்கு.
But Dojo now on the edge. So much loot at their disposal, able to clear out the teams in the way, and all the while other squads going down in the kill. Going down, and I think that Dojo is aware there's at least one more trio they have to be keeping their eyes on. Wrapping around from what we can see on the map, looks like it is.
And this also just forces DZ to play this as a duo, and that's Complexity, who are rotating from the outside of the circle to get involved in this fight. Enter Force 36, like you mentioned, also being one of the squads in this area. 4 teams approaching from the southwest side into where this next circle is pulling. And guess what squad?
I'm so glad you said
I was going to say, that next
one squad
that has gotten such a good call on this circle. Still running the same comp, by the way, with the Crypto. It's Ascend. Your double winners of World's Edge, who are leading the overall standings of Welcome back, Vex. We missed you. I know we keep repeating ourselves, but it's always so nice to see familiar faces make their way back to land. Nice playing off the low ground here. This is the spot that we were mentioning earlier on. So holding down some space where you're out of line of sight of multiple teams that are going to be rotating from the different chokes. This no name spot is going to be incredibly important, or else you're going to end up like Phony Head right here, who has to rat this out with White Evo.
Praveen bro, true shit. ஆமா தலைவரே.
There's so much going on the
ஒரே ரேஜ் மோட்ல இருக்காரு அவரு.
Just a bit longer here as they're trying to keep themselves alive, going for that res.
இந்த ரெண்டு பாக்கெட் தான்டா இருக்கு மயிரே.
They are getting pushed on by LG.
Throw in the fire, gets the crack. Complexity eliminated from your feet as LG taking turns to then rotate on this fight, and guess who got a call to involve themselves? It's Alliance. They're trying to fight their way to maybe have some control over the space instead of having to play from the low ground. Considering that the circle is going to be closing right behind them soon.
This could be a really solid opportunity for Alliance to try and 3G here, but they are going to have to move. We saw one of them kind of scouting out where they're going to have to rotate to for the next zone. They want to dip and get out of dodge as early as possible. Ascend, we were talking about their stats, how they were lower. From Split 2 playoffs came from World's Edge, 21% here on Stormpoint, but they are the only team that predicted this ring and has been holding center of that zone this whole time, while everyone else is now fighting to get in.
That's their comp. You know, they're running the Watson that can scan the ring console. They're running the Crypto to see how many teams are around the area. They got the EMP ready. They get pushed on in 100 Thieves. With the tracking and the beamage, Northeption also in trouble. Ling gets taken out, and so Satuki pops that shield back. See the different angle as the EMP rings out through their ears. That's going to be Ascend once again. Face finally get called out as Phony was the last one alive. Gets sent back to the lobby. 11 squads left, and it's getting so chaotic with this split ring closing. Look how many teams get eliminated in your feed. Start a fight. LG Chivas, they can't rotate from the buildings. It was Ascend that called this out, and Headset into that rotation that we mentioned with a huge crack. Beautiful nades coming in.
Literally the entire southern half of those teams done and dusted. Exit, like you said, making the call early to move a little bit farther north. This is paying off for them. Dojo also finding themselves in that area, trying to navigate this engagement, knowing that they have to make it work. Only 45 seconds left before the shrink starts happening, and they don't want to have to fight through the Dojo to then go into Ascend. There is also the 100 that potentially pose a problem for them.
My goodness. Timmy with I was going to say the headlock at this. Not anymore. Happens through here. And Dojo, after their transition from mill all the way over to where the circle's going to be pulling here, look at where Ascend's going to be rotating right after this. They're engaging to fight themselves, but is it worth it here? I think trying to call out one of, yes, Dark Zero on the other side here too. Alliance get eliminated, but Dark Zero overlooking the fight happening that Ascend just took, and now they're going to be able to breeze their way right back into the safety of the edge. Currently 4 squads left. It's Exet, Dojo, Ascend, and Dark Zero. Dark Zero playing this as just Zainu right now, staying alive for the rest of the team.
Honestly, it was smart for Ascend to move out, clear out the first rat. They know that Zainu's also a solo. If they can get rid of both rats that were on the southern edge, happens right there. Now Ascend have nothing to worry about from their backs. All they have to do is focus on who's coming in from the front, and there's a very real possibility that Dojo and Exet might run into each other first.
Unless Dojo griefs Ascend in this situation, or Ascend wants to grief themselves, if they engage in this fight first, that's the green light for Dojo to go in for the third party. Full 3-man squads left in this lobby. Our last 3 remaining teams, Dojo, Exet, and Ascend. While Ascend are safe in the south side of that circle. Timmy with these heavy shots. Gets the beam once again. He's got the digi threat on the R9 here too, and they have that slight high ground. Wondering if they have the catalyst wall on top of that, because that's going to be so important for a circle like this.
And this is why Ascend cleared out their backs. They saw what was going to happen, backed off, and now it is Dojo, and they're battling it out, waiting in the wings for the perfect opportunity to strike. You see Timmy trying to do damage Ascend to deter them, pushing up and making sort of sneaky moves. But now we're falling into a little bit of calm before the storm. Which squad will make the first push?
Ooh, the calm. I'm just waiting. Oh, they destroyed the crypto drone. I was just waiting for an EMP to ring out. That's not gonna happen. Comes a mother load. The fuse gonna be able to also get some extra set of information. With the Ascend composition, with the Valkyrie, with the Watson, they can send up the Jenny just in case, depending on those creeping barrages. Because Sherry with the EMP, if he gets that crypto drone online in time, he's got less than 25 seconds on the clock. He should be fine for right now, but Exit has him in their sights. Putting some pressure with the 30-30 right now, but they also know that any of Dojo or Exit commit first, their backs will be exposed. Lufka.
Start shrinking, and someone's going to have to make a move first. Bow check in the hands of post-kill. Design fill up in the sky as he tries to land an arc star, hopefully looking for that initiate and opens an opportunity for Dojo to push.
On the other side too, taking it off angle, Design gets melted down. Enemy gets the knock on Nocturnal, but they can't overextend here. Even with that knock, it's Exit that are going to try to reset here. Which of these teams are going to capitalize? Timmy is dealing with Ascend himself, adding in pressure to the right, while the rest of his teammates are dealing with Exit, giving him some press fire if he's in their line of sight. Beautiful communication that we're currently seeing right now from Dojo, and they still have height advantage for right now.
Timmy spots out Ascend deciding to make their push, and he knows that he has to alert the rest of the squad to come and help them. Now Ascend are the ones that have the high ground. Timmy deciding to back off, play this a little bit safer within limited amount of time, but post-kill comes through and decimates with the R99.
There's a Jenny coming in clutch too with the creeping barrage, helping out Ascend stay in this position by the rock. Tries to set up the Watson fence, gets deleted just as quickly. Here comes the catalyst wall that they're waiting for. Just that patience paying off for Dojo. See enemy just trying to restabilize. Not sure if he's got the meds. Okay, he pops the med kit real quick right alongside Timmy. They're dropping some ammo for Design. Looks like they were lacking of some ammunition earlier on. Exit trying to match that, and he's about to get the mother load. Massive
call out. Dojo also now out in the open, Exet able to kind of play this a little bit safer, waiting for the opportunity to use that additional damage for the win.
Oh, they're isolating Dojo. They're isolating Dojo. They know that Ascent on the high ground here. Design takes an EMP tower right in front of them. Where are they going to land? They're going to be playing by the tree. They lose out an enemy. They got pinched. They got gripped by both teams here. Here comes the EMP ringing through. The Motherlode controlling some space. Ascend get eliminated in third. Dojo in this duel.
Dojo champion, Dojo champion.
Dojo take the dub that they've been working so hard for. Dojo got the mojo. They're here to show it.
Wait,
சந்தோஷமா இருக்கிற டீமே காட்டுறாங்க.
Timmy, wait,
by Dojo, even with Exit trying to save up their extra damage and then focus Dojo down. I mean, the decision to go up on the evac tower saved them in that moment, and that was a massive clutch out of the trio.
And it really was up to Timmy at the very end. One of the last members alive at the very end. Well, rather, Dojo was just feeling so much pressure taking that evac tower that we saw what happened to enemy on the way up. So to play around that space, to play around the mother load, and to wait to have that catwall to utilize it, they're playing so well today. Who would have thought, you know, when your contests aren't going so great there, or you get Greek by Dark Zero at the very end, that now you get to have some room to breathe, the information that you fight for all the way by mill, and then you get to reap the benefits at the very end for the late game.
I mean, how many clutches can Timmy really have? In my opinion, even the fact that he was solo deterring Ascend for so long in that top 3 as equally as valuable a clutch as what he has done time and time again when it comes to handling his ones. I mean, they were in a 2-1 split, keeping 2 full squads away from them that entire time, and somehow not becoming the focus of either one.
It's beautiful too because this allows them to skyrocket overall. I believe this probably sets them up in 2nd place, right below Ascend, who already had double wins for the day. So with the KP that we also got to see earlier on from enemy, the damage that was putting down after they took that first initial fight, carrying that into the very end. Timothy is Timothy for a reason. Let's take a look at the final circle to take you guys through Exit's point of view. The patience between the double catwall that you saw in front of you. I believe the original other side was from Dojo that had put them out earlier. And then that's when Exit put their catwall into using the mother load. But it was the focus. Even when Dojo was in a bad spot to call, the evac tower so quick in a situation like this. This is what you love to see when it comes to land in the champs.
Especially as you can see just how out in the open Dojo were they, like you said, suffered the shield crack before they even got onto the evac tower. Somehow still escape all of this chaos down at the bottom as well as the additional damage from the mother load. Exit is forced to then switch their focus to Ascend because they're the only team left on that low ground. All of the time was in Dojo's hands there, and you can see
Dojo got the mojo.
That Dojo was gone and Ascend was coming down. They had to just change what they were paying attention. Still, 11 kills for Dojo, 9 out of Exit. That's both squads.
6 for Ascend. A team that stat-wise doesn't usually rack up points on score point and usually has a better
பயங்கரமான ஒரு மூவ்மென்ட் போட்டுருப்பாருடா கடைசில பாரு ரிப்ளைன் வச்சு மதர் லோட்ல இருந்து எஸ்கேப் ஆயிருப்பாங்க
kills you still get 3rd place in our first game on storm points and with 6 KP as we take a look at this second page Overx
அப்படியே ஈவாக் டவர் போட்டல மேலயே இருப்பாங்க ரெண்டு டீம் அடிச்சுக்குவாங்கட்டு
to where Exit was holding that high ground building just in case it did end up pulling on that side of the rock.
Some big brain plays out of Nocturnal there, setting the squad up for success, and at this point they have to be feeling good. They're having a really solid series and it's just about getting yourself to the next stage of the competition.
11 KP. Look at much
damage controller.
The damage that they put down all together.
எல்லா கண்ட்ரோலர் தெரிஞ்சு வச்சிருக்க போலியா வாழ்க்கையில கண்ட்ரோலர் நிறைய விளையாடி இருக்காங்க போலியா சொல்லு ப்ரோ
and the pro league going through the challenger circuit for so long to make it through the LCQ to hype up the crowd. He's got some
உடுப்ரா டோஜோ ஒரு மேட்ச் தான் ப்ரோ வின் பண்ணி இருக்குது
I'm sure he's happy because he's definitely winning right now, sitting in 2nd place after that performance in game number 4 in the overall standings for this group.
And you know, I know we've talked about them a lot, but I feel like we should probably hype up Ascend as well. Not only because of just today's performance, but because of a little bit of a comeback. I mean, they did not have a great showing in the Split 2 playoffs, and to turn it around in such a short amount of time, this is the Ascend that we remember from the Split 1 playoffs. They are now 54 points, 1st place for the series results here so far, followed by LG Chivas, but a pretty decent point disparity there. I mean, Ascend has just been so consistent. We talked about how they were top 4 the first 3 matches. Once again, find themselves in a top 3 position. That's insane.
Yeah, it's actually crazy. It's crazy to see what they were able to put down on the board here. All in general, putting in so many of those points, looking all the way down, start a fight on the bottom. It's beautiful to see so many of these teams do the turnaround, coming in from World's Edge, going into
controller try பண்ணுவோமா எப்படி இருக்கீங்க
including
இதுல
the chaos that we got
அது
to see start off at the very beginning of the game. We saw many teams are quick to rotate to where that circle could have been pulled, but also teams like Exit that do the option coverage to cover where they could rotate just in case, worst case scenario, they could approach from a better position from the high to low ground disparity that Storm Point provides. Point, it allows you to transcend through so much more open ground. If you take an evac tower, if you have a Valkyrie on your team, you take the Skyward Dive, you cross so much more space, you get information while you're also able to fly down and find your own spot. If you don't have that scared character and you're not done, then you are able to secure a building and play into your strength. Also helps out that specifically Nox found an early purple Evo. He had the Kraber that he was putting down the work, the crowd was getting hyped for. Ascent had gotten a really good call where that circle was going to be pulling, getting some KP of their own, but when you have two teams in a circle like that and a double catwalk comes in and it blocks out your vision, sometimes you have to be forced to play for a certain placement even if it isn't for the dub.
And when we're talking about the clutch choice to go to the northern side on behalf of Exit, you saw just how scary and detrimental it was to stay on the southern side, because while you were casting, all of a sudden the kill feed lights up and we lose 4 to 5 teams in a matter of a minute, and that's what happens if you aren't making those reads just the right way at the right time. It is a night and day difference when it comes to your placements, and then obviously the potential KP that's coming along with it. But then they also did the really smart thing of knowing that there was still a few rats in the area, and they weren't going to let the rats be the downfall from the back end of that zone. They went out of their way to go hunt them down and clear them out to ensure that they could try and wait it out as long as possible.
Timing is everything, especially when it comes to falling in the evac tower. The comms that comes in for something like that in a circle like that, you could do that if your vision's blocked. You put down the evac tower, and even then you saw the pressure. And Ascend, while they were focused on that, who was focused on Ascend? It was Exit. On that hilltop, that you saw Dojo holding the high ground on those rocks.
Timmy Nuba,
between those three teams at the very end of that circle.
Timmy is the goat.
Those type of at the very end where you have the rocks, you have the natural cover of the land to work with. You're not having 10 teams in one building. At the very end, wait to get funneled out, and then it's just chaos.
Timmy Nuba அமைதியா இருக்கே நீ.
Usually my favorite games at this point in time, teams know where they stand.
Sure. Teams
know what they have to go for if they want to play for kills, if they already are feeling comfortable with the current points that they hold. If there's a big gap between the overall standings with the bottom 10 teams.
அவங்கள யூஸ் பண்றாங்க மச்சான். ஃபியூஸ் கூட யூஸ் பண்றாங்க மச்சான். இப்ப பாறா வெயிட்டா இருக்குல. சந்தோஷமா இருக்கு. யூஸ் பண்றாங்க.
இது அவர் இருக்கவோ சொல்லாதடா.
ஏன்டா?
And I'm glad that you brought up
fuse எடுப்பாருன்றியா?
One, I'm interested to see what Colfax does again. Will they keep that switch
கூட ரைட் தாட மாட்டீங்களாடா?
ஆமாடா ரைட் எவனுமே எடுத்து ஆட மாட்டான்டா. ஒரே ஒரு டீம் மட்டும் அடிச்சறா.
ஆனா டீம் ஒருபடி ஆடலையே.
About the next stage of the competition, the last 2 lands, the threshold for making it into that winner's bracket was 92 points. The one before that, it was 100. We've seen a couple squads that have already surpassed those numbers, starting to solidify their space in the winner's portion of the bracket. And like you're saying, if some of these squads feel comfortable,
மச்சான் ஒருவேளை உண்மையிலேயே இந்த இடத்துல இவங்க இறங்கணும்னு சொல்லிட்டு இடம் கொடுத்துருவாங்களா முன்னாடியே?
There is a very real possibility that someone will bring someone if they can try to keep them out of that winner's bracket.
I love how you bring that up. It's true. It's that comes into play.
ஒரு சில பேர் இவனை தூக்கணும்னே சொல்லிட்டு அந்த ஸ்பாட்டுக்கு போவாங்க.
We're seeing perform in one lobby. It's about planning ahead and what you could do if you've already had the points necessary to sit comfy. Getting started here with game number 5. We're gonna have to see if those contentions come out, or if we're gonna see the respect instead. Overrides are landing north side of Jurassic Park, leaving Jurassic Park open here in the situation. And it does look like we are seeing the fight get taken from E6 to 100 Eves, where this was the original 50-50 and they already look like they're in trouble with Slayers going down first again.
Didn't work with one team, try contest somewhere else, but 100 Thieves have been getting contested all day yesterday. They struggled with it up against Go Next a couple times. 100 Thieves this time not looking like they're struggling, putting E6 on the back foot and holding some really solid angles, cornering them down.
No,
in this
bro.
one, E6 are in a rough position.
I just really like the mind games on Coverx says that we're not going to land Jurassic Park, and E6 probably thinking that they would get contested again, did not land Jurassic Park, which makes it completely clear, which then forces E6 in this thought process
fight
of,
for
we're
their
going to take the
place.
50-50 against 100
Fight.
instead over here by Antenna. And with E6 playing this at a disadvantage and trying to take height right now, very limited loot to work with. Just picked up the Volt for right now to try to take this fight. Gibby Bubble has already been called in here too. Depending on how long this fight lasts though, we know that FaZe lands in Launchpad. There will be rotating to where that circle's going to be pulling. But I expect more of these teams nearby to maybe prioritize that next circle instead of trying to engage in a fight that's taking way too long here. Onmu with another crackle. Scurry comes in from the other side and gets the knock onto Tyler.
That was a rough spot for Tyler, who didn't have a whole lot of loot, and now it's just easy cleanup for 100 Thieves onto E6, the first squad out of match number 5. And 100 Thieves have to feel good about holding down Antenna, and they don't even know that they don't have to worry about anyone around them because Pulverex is nowhere in the vicinity.
Exactly, and that goes into what teams prioritize first, right? So they hear the fight's going on, but if they have the information on where the ring is going to be pulling, or rather, even if they don't have that information, they feel uncomfortable and instead want to get ahead of the curve, already start rotating to that circle where they could try to get that ring console first. Dark Zero, also in that early fight, all the way over here by North Pad. You also have GO getting involved. There's 4 other teams. Dark Zero in a lot of trouble, losing out on Zero themselves. Signy already had that purple too. With Youngie also getting involved, taking down Mia K. Those are all the squads in the area. Dojo, you're winners of game number 4. Get taken out in 19th. This is to highlight how many teams that are so quick to rotate here on where the circle is going to be pulling, because look at the minimap. They already have information on where that circle is, and this could be pulling towards the outskirts of North Plaid, close to that armory area where the Dragon Ball Z buildings sometimes are located.
And you can see how many teams are up in the north right now trying to battle for that area. Tom Young-Kung, another team yesterday, had fantastic performance that we were able to talk about a little bit here. One of the early rotators in their near SAF. They've got Ascend coming in on the backside. They could find themselves here in a pinch in just a moment, knowing that they want to kind of hold this area down.
So those 3 buildings right there, that's what I was talking about. We've seen the circle pull on the outskirts of that last third building to the left side of the right of where you saw currently Dum Young Kung situated in. If it does pull towards there, there's a lot of open space between the armory and those buildings, unless a team just rolls right in and comes in with a trident so that way they can block some space, get out of line of sight of other teams. It's incredibly risky to go in for an early rotate if you don't have the proper composition to lock down those buildings. You're also denying yourself loot if you don't have the Loba and you are playing for those buildings right off the bat.
We see that now a little bit of the fighting's died down. Dark Zero somehow escaping there. No one wanted to really push that, even though there was a slight advantage. We've got Geo up there, we've got Riddle Order, Enterforce making their rotation in right on the edge, potentially running into Riddle Order in the process of that. But right now, everyone has settled down just a bit and is trying to take a step back and not go out that early because we've already lost 2 squads.
Man, if this ends up being over the water between North Pad into...
Toxic.
I mean, but imagine the teams that have a Newcastle. GO, in this case, that Newcastle wall is going to come in clutch. But then the cat wall as well, in the same situation to block out sight. Dark Zero, letting that squad from inside with the Watson fences. This could be a send, maybe. We have to see with the Catalyst, probably not. Trying to find the squad as well. They get post kill at the same time, and it was Ascend inside this building with post kill going down. Loof gonna meet that right afterwards. Ascend, a team that have been having such a dominating performance in this lobby, go out in 18th. Now Dark Zero could get the extra loot that they need. They're still rocking the Digi, the 30-30 on top of that with the weapon loadout for Zero, and some extra room to breathe here too.
Very, very confident push out of DZ in those moments as well. LCDF now down to 2, finding themselves in a little bit of a scrap here in the area that Riddle Order was in, and they go down to Riddle Order, caught out on that rotation. We also had seen at least one or two other squads trying to rotate around that western edge, opting to go a little bit wider, a little bit safer, and LCDF might be wishing now that they've done the same.
Calm before the storm. Just not gets deleted, having to back away. Lack of cover, you're trying to shoot through the smokes, and you know so many of these teams already have a digi threat. Enter Force 36. The other team that's playing off that slight lip, the low ground. There's over 7 teams in this north side of the circle, by the way. IOY having to pop the shield bat, while aimbot with the gold Evo is going to be able to pop up that cat wall. And this is the moment where the teams are going to start rotating in, the circle closing in right behind them. Again, this is north side that is going to be exposed. And the circle and where it's pulling. This is where it's going to be hanging out by. Sometimes it also pulls towards the buildings to the south side, but DZ is in such a good spot. They could oppress the teams that are going to be coming from North Wall, from Gambare, Enter Force Complexity on that north pad side. Area 310, rocking the Caustic with Lemon being here. They want to secure one of these buildings, but finding over here by the wall could be a tricky rotation depending on where they want to approach, especially if they want to approach from the building side of wall. There's already 2 teams there. Tries to call in the Nox guys. You saw the black hole activated on the high ground, and this is Alliance taking this fight.
This is a fight that Alliance needs to take, though they are currently not safe. They only have a certain amount of time to clear Area 310 out and then continue on their rotation and trying to find a safe area. Like you said, going through the wall, not the best option because you've got Tom Young-Kung there as well as SAF, so Alliance just trying to clean this one up. And Effect is back, and that's why he's here.
Welcome to champs. Once again, Effects gets the beam. Follow-up attempt coming in. Yuki gets deleted on the other side, playing around the Cosmic Dash. It's fine, we don't even care. Goodbye, Lemon. Goodbye, Area 310. 15 squads left. And we talk about the rotation exiting out from wall. They enter through the vault with so many teams already inside of those buildings, dropping down from that zip line. You could be exposed. There's 3 pills, I believe, on the bottom end of those zip lines that they can play around that space, but that's still not the best space to play around when you're out in the open in the line of sight of not just 2 teams in those buildings, but also the squad that has probably the roof of armory like Exet. Gambare Otosan right now, this is the squad that we mentioned earlier that has the Newcastle that can work benefits into where the circle is going to be pulling.
They're definitely getting pushed right now. They're able to get the shields back off on Jung-hee, but looks like from the outside it was DZ with too good of an angle right now. Really able to kind of be annoying with this poke damage from a safe distance.
A lot of damage. Well, that Hemlock burning some of the ammo just to delete some extra cover that they could work with. They're literally pinched right now with Complexity on the other side. Dark Zero giving them the sandwich in the other side of the bread for them to work with here. GO literally fighting for their life before NA comes in to clean them up. Between Dark Zero and Complexity, now both of these teams are going to be walking away.
You know, gotta give a little bit of love to Complexity too, a squad that definitely struggled yesterday on the first day, and today it is a night and day difference when it comes to their performance. They had 9 kills in the second match of the day, and now looking like they are much more confident starting to make this move. I watched them go very wide on that western edge, and now they're making the perfect timed push into the area. They've cleaned out everybody else around them other than DZ, who assisted them in that fight against Gambare Otosan, but Complexity are in a pretty solid spot.
We can take a look at where Exit is positioned. They do the very same game plan as what we saw in the last game. They set themselves up in a spot that in case the circle takes a drastic pull away from where you could expect it, they're still in a spot where their rotation won't be contested. They can have a safer spot, maybe engage for some third parties, depending on the teams that are inside some of these buildings. Taking a look at Exit right now, that is exactly what they're going to be doing. They're going to be trying to push into this building. They were on the roof of the armory right before this. You see the black hole being called in right through the window crack, and Nocturnal gets that first knock with the Arc Star.
Monsoon entered the Apex tournament by Bravery Stove.
Nocturnal and Sykes looking for a way into the building to see if they can take this fight to them. Dreamfire down to just Roy with literally no shields and barely any health. Tries to go for the shield swap, isn't able to do it. Dreamfire now out at the hands of Exet, and they have set themselves up well in this building.
Now they have extra loot too, especially since they had rotated just as quick. Taking a look on the other side, this is the rotation that we're talking about. They weren't going to take the Volt. This is a smart spot here for them to rotate from the south side of Wall instead. And Alliance right now sharing this real estate with FaZe on the south side of that building. They already know. You can hear the pings too. Circle is going to be closing in a minute and less than 10 seconds here, and they're adding on some of the extra pressure. There's 12 squads left. But talking about their next game plan, whether it be Alliance or FaZe, there's a third squad in the mist, and it's LG Chivas. On the other side of FaZe, the one team that has circle advantage and could gatekeep
That clip
all three
made
is
Monsoon
100
famous.
Thieves.
He is a
And
good
they hear
idea.
the fighting that's happening.
Oh,
There's
okay,
another
okay.
choke that either of these teams could rotate to if they don't want to deal with 100 Thieves, but then they would have to be in the line of
Monsoon
sight
entered
of
Apex
exit.
tournament by
Really, the only
grabbing
cover
Shroud.
that you have
Ama
is a
bro,
big
Shroud
rock
ஆடுன டைம்ல
once
இருந்து
you
பாக்குறீங்களா
exit
bro
out of
நீங்க
that
இத?
choke.
And I think FaZe have seen LG out in the
I
open. I know
remember.
100 Thieves is looking
Siva.
their direction as well. So LG
ஆமாடா
going to have to
season 5
decide
na
how they
பாரு.
want to handle this backing off. Just
அதான்டா
because FaZe is not
Shroud
going to
ஆடுறதுல
go
இருந்து
over
பாக்குறாருன்னா
so
அப்ப
much, but they
பாத்துக்கோ.
are moving as a
Shroud
trio
விட்டா
right now.
ஆடுறது.
FaZe might have decided that it's going to be easier for them to go through LG
The clip
instead of
made
worrying about Alliance. And
Monsoon
Alliance might
famous.
take that
He is a
opportunity
good
to try and
idea.
push through the choke and avoid all of it.
And that would be so smart here too, but they also are getting a
வேலை
little
முடிஞ்சிச்சு
aggressive
சிவா
playing
கொஞ்சம் ஃப்ரீ ஆயிட்டா.
by this edge, and it's because they feel that momentum after already taking another squad previously in the middle of that rotation. Seeing what Alliance wants to do here, if they maybe even want to contest, since FaZe had rotated away right behind LG. LG have now become the hams of the sandwich. 100 Thieves on the other side with FaZe on the other side from them. 100 Thieves are going to be able to engage on that fight wall on the north side. There's that Trident blocking out some vision. You see the smoke on top of that. The Trident isn't enough for Zero. Looks like he called them the creepy garage earlier on too to try to contest that team. Zero's doing a fantastic job right now.
I trade every game Shroud plays.
The follow-ups are there from Zainu and Jenverden.
Shroud fan bro நீங்க?
But playing on the edge of where the circle is going to be pulling, which is going to be that water. Complexity were also very patient in holding this spot after they took care of GO. They didn't want to overextend. They knew that there was another team on the other side. They didn't know it was Dark Zero and LG. This is the fight against 100 Thieves. Coming out on top. But ஆனா ரொம்பலாம் ஃபாலோ பண்ண மாட்டேன் பட் Shroud person ரொம்ப பிடிக்கும்.